B'Shem Hashem Naaseh V'Natzliach. Shiur Torah. Baruch Hashem, we had a nice shiur new shiur in Fort Lauderdale yesterday. New crew of Israelis. Nice kids, nice guys. A couple of girls. Want to learn more about the truth. Baruch Hashem, we have another one coming up tomorrow in Miami. The other shiur that I've been doing with the Spanish crew. From Panama, from Nicaragua, from Cuba, and a few other countries. Really, really nice people. One of them called me today. God bless him. He, Mamash Tzaddik. He says, listen, I need your help. I need your help. So I'm thinking, okay, he needs my help. His advice, marriage advice, kids advice, money advice, something. You know, what do people call somebody that teaches Torah about? He's like, listen, last week when you talked about the Parashat, I didn't understand about how did it all add up with Osnat, the wife of Yosef Tzaddik, and her real mom, which is Dinah, but she was really raised by Potiphar and his wife. So he's asking how did it all add up, which Bezat Hashem will go over this shiur, but it's really, it's amazing how Am Yisrael, once you give them a little bit of Torah, you give them a little bit of it, they want a lot more of it. Most people you call you, oh, listen, I need money problems, I have job problems, I have kids problems, I have that problem. Don't call you about Torah. So it's mamash nice, Baruch Hashem. Plus, we have another series I started. There's a chavruta I teach in New York. So every Thursday night in Hebrew. So I started posting it online if anybody is interested. Really good shiurim. Also Parashat Shavua, Musar, different things. But Neil and I actually were talking about something, but also answer your question because it's an interesting question about coming to a lecture. A lot of people today with YouTube, making Torah just a button away. Just literally, you could, if you want to learn Torah, just press a button. You have Torah from anywhere in the world. You can get the biggest rabbis in the world. You can get a local rabbi that's recording a shiurim. Anyone who wants to learn Torah, it's never been easier to learn Torah than today, which means that it's that much more responsibility on us to learn. No one can come to Shamayim, and when they ask him the first question, did you make time for Torah? He says, no, I wasn't sure where I can learn. Oh no, I didn't have time. What do you mean you didn't have time? You were in a car during the day? Yes. You were always in a car for 2 minutes? No, I was in a car for a half hour, for an hour, 2 hours. Okay, so why don't you put a disc? Oh yeah, I didn't have discs. Okay, so what about you have internet on your phone? Yeah, I had internet on my phone. Okay, so why don't you press YouTube here, Shiur Torah, whatever you want to learn, Parashat Shavua, Musar, whatever you want to learn, press the button. So no one can come to Shamayim when they ask him this first question, which is whether you did what you were obligated to do, which is learn some type of Torah every day. No one can say, listen, I have a real excuse. No one has a real excuse. Now, the question is, how much Torah are we obligated to learn? There are some people that we know that are learning Torah literally 15, 16, 17 hours a day, and they don't feel like it's enough. Mamash, they don't feel like it's enough. I talked to my chavruta, Rabbi Chaim Kachlon, Mamash, big talmid chacham, and already before the age of 20, finished the Shas 4 times. He's written already and published maybe 10 or so books. He has another 39 that he's working on, and he just turned 27. At 27 in America, people just learn how to change their own diaper. What do they learn for 27 years old in America? So somebody, mamash, big talmid chacham. So I talked to him, and he says, yeah, you know what? It's not good, it's not good. I'm like, well, it's not good? He goes, I'm not learning enough. I'm learning enough. He learns 16, 17 hours a day. That's a normal day. Some days even more. So when we learn each, Baruch Hashem, we learn many times during the week, but we have a shiur kavua, we have a regular session that we've had for many years, every Thursday, which on the average we learn anywhere from 4 to 7 hours. Straight. And obviously with the time difference, that means he doesn't sleep. He already learned in the kollel all day. He finished the kollel. He came home, helped the wife a little bit with a few things. You have to help the wife shlom bayit. That's it. Takes the break. Starts the shiur with me, and we continue learning all the way until the next day. He goes to nets, prays, and he doesn't go to sleep once he gets home. He has to help his wife cook for Shabbat. Wow. So this is mamash talmid chacham. So on one hand, you're saying, okay, he's saying he's not learning enough. On another hand, you have most of the Jews in the world. If they learn 5 minutes a day, it's a miracle. So what are we really obligated? The obligation of someone is to make time to learn Torah every day, and each person has to do it and learn based on their own level. If you are at a beginner's level, that means that you have to learn some type of Torah every day. 5 minutes, 15 minutes, that's fine. That's the way I started. I started with 15 minutes a day, learning Torah. You have 24 hours in a day, 15 minutes. You waste either smoking cigarettes, going to buy an extra coffee. 15 minutes is nothing. In the car, in a book, on YouTube, wherever you want. But one major obligation that you have, especially when you're a Baal Teshuva and you're new to it, is to learn something you're interested in. You're not allowed to learn, and I'm not talking about you shouldn't. I'm talking about you're not allowed to learn something you're not interested in. Why you're not allowed? Because somebody that's brand new, the Torah already is difficult for him. It's already brand new. It's already something that's completely different than everything we've ever learned in our life. So if someone's learned business their whole life, they learned about money, they learned about the world here, and you tell them, listen, Torah, Chazal, all these mystical things, all of these things about how to change our traits, how to change our personality to make ourselves better, it's completely different than the secular learning that's out there. So if you start teaching him things and he's not interested in, then easily he's going to say, listen, you know what, thank God I didn't learn Torah my whole life. It could turn into a Chilul Hashem, it could turn into something bad. He could start thinking that the Torah is not interesting. The Torah is so wide that if all of the ocean, according to Chazal, if all of the ocean turned into ink, and all of the trees turn into pens, it wouldn't be enough to even write 1% of the Torah. 1%. I'm not talking about all of the Torah, or half, or 20%. 1% of the Torah, with all of the ink in the world, you can't. Torah is huge, so of course there's interesting things for everybody. Some people like the mystical things. Other people like the musal. They like to better themselves as people. Some people like things that are relevant to business. There's Masechet Bava Metzia, Bava Batra, Baba Kama. They talk a lot about business. Some people like to learn the stories of the Torah. They see, things in the Chumash, things about the tzaddikim. Whatever it is, find something you're interested in. And little by little, you'll see that not only are you enjoying it, but you're putting yourself in a situation where you end up learning other things. And little by little, those things that you used to think were boring, now have become something interesting. But that's the main obligation, is to learn something that you're interested in. Now, what about going to shulim? A lot of people today say, listen, I learn my Torah, I watch YouTube. I have a lot of the guys that come here. Usually we used to get more people than we have today. But Baruch Hashem, we have people every time. But some people say, listen, you know what? I'm doing a few other things. I'll watch the shiur on YouTube. Baruch Hashem, it's good. They learn on YouTube, it's good. As long as they're learning. But what's the advantage of coming to a shiur? According to Masechet Brachot, it says that most people, if they go to a lecture, and the darshan, the person that's teaching Torah, is good, knows what he's talking about, most people are not only not going to understand, but most people are not even going to remember most of what he says. It's just natural human flaw. We're not all big talmidim chachamim that everything you say, somebody says to you, remember every single word. Most of what people say, you're not going to remember. It's no fault of your own. Same thing with me, same thing with everybody. So Hashem says, listen, someone who learns Torah has to get tzchar, has to get the reward. So since they're not going to remember most of the stuff, how do you give them a reward for something they don't remember or they don't understand? So most of the tzchar, most of the reward that somebody gets for going to shiur Torah is the actual travel to the shiur Torah.
Also the intention.
The intention, yeah, but the intention, in essence, you put into it in action, to action. Because somebody could say, listen, if it's just intention, then I could just sit at home and say, listen, I wanted to go to shiur Torah, but you know what, I got tired. That intention is flawed. So you have to put your intentions into action. A lot of Israelis say, they have an expression, ani dati balev. I'm religious in my heart. They don't keep anything. They kiss the mezuzah 87 times a day. They go to the Knesset for an hour before Yom Kippur is over. A lot like we used to do. Same thing. No different. It's not frowning upon them or making fun of them. This is just the reality that we live in today. So they can say, no, I need that tibalev. I'm religious in my heart. I believe in God, but I don't feel like doing what he says. Because I don't think it's relevant to today. That's what we were talking about yesterday's lecture. Really interesting. The guys were telling me, listen, maybe it changed. Maybe the Torah changed. Right now it's 2015. We're going to 2016. Maybe keeping Shabbat without driving to shul, maybe it's not really relevant anymore. Because they didn't have cars back then. So
It's
this couldn't be farther from the truth.
It's the opposite.
But exactly, it's the opposite. But
They used to
nonetheless,
use money on
people
Shabbat.
really believe that. People truly believe that if they have a right intention, and that's enough. So the intention needs to be put into action into Judaism. Judaism, unlike all other religions, unlike the Islam, unlike the Christianity, Catholicism, we are obligated to put things into action. That's our intentions have to go into action. So when someone goes to a lecture, he already received most of the schal, most of the reward he's going to get just by getting there. Of course, there's even more if you pay attention and you learn and you take the things that you learn and put them into action. There's even more, and you even bring people to the shiur. Then you're part of the Zikuei Rabim. And also, someone has to understand that when you go to a lecture, you actually become part of the Zikuei Rabim, part of benefiting the public, part of helping people do tshuva. You're actually helping that whole cause just by coming. Why? Because I can tell you as a professional lecturer for many years, before this I did business, and I can tell you one major thing. When I give a lecture in front of 5 people versus a lecture that I give in front of 3, 4, or 500 people, it's a completely different lecture. It can be the same exact subject, but it's a completely different lecture. Why? Because when you have many people that are paying attention to what you're saying and are interested in what you're saying, you already get a lot more confidence in what you're saying, and you already have a lot more to say, and there's just a lot more passion that goes into it. So when you come to the shiur, you're already getting a big reward by being a helper to the person that's speaking. Because, listen, if I'm speaking, for example, I tried doing a few shiurim. I'm trying to have this other series that Bezrat HaShem will do about Mesilat Yesharim, about Path of the Just, but that series is going to be a daily series. So I'm doing a bunch of lectures, and Bezrat HaShem will publish we'll post it on YouTube. It'll be like an hour shiur each day, but it's going to be probably a few hundred shiurim. But nonetheless, the talking in front of the camera by myself, and instead of talking in front of even one person, forget 300, one person, myself, it's 2 completely different worlds. Because also keep in mind when you're teaching Torah, when you're looking at the crowd as a speaker, you after a while you get to know people, and you start noticing different things about people, where certain people need help, where certain people need an extra chizuk, where certain people need extra guidance, and sometimes it's not good to go to somebody straight and tell them, listen, by the way, your wife dresses like a prostitute. You should tell her something. Not every guy is willing to accept that. Not every guy is willing to accept that. Not every guy is willing for somebody else to tell him the truth, because it's the truth. I mean, over here we say the truth. I didn't write the truth. No one asked me about whether I thought it was or I agreed what the truth is. HaShem wrote it. That's what we say. But you have to say it to people. Sometimes there's some people you have a good relationship with them where there are people that respect and want the truth, and you can tell them, listen, by the way, your wife is not dressing modestly. You say it in a nice way, obviously, and I'm just being a little bit more, I guess, direct with what I'm saying. But the point I'm trying to say, you say it in a nice way. Tell them, listen, your wife has to dress more modestly, according to Judaism, even if she's not Jewish. Even if somebody's not Jewish, they still have to be modest. Because a woman that's not modest is causing other people to sin. So a woman that's not modest walks one block. She goes from Target, she goes to the pizzeria. Okay, it takes, I don't know, maybe a 4-minute walk. And if it's, let's say, in New York, where there's thousands upon thousands of people that are walking there, each one of those people that looked at her has made a sin. And she's causing thousands of people to make sins that are all going into her account. Just walking 5 minutes can cause her account to go up by 1 million sins. It's not worth it. When people actually know the truth about this, they wouldn't want to do it. Most people don't think like that. Why? Because we don't think about what the Torah says if we're not learning the Torah. So sometimes when somebody comes to a shiur and maybe you don't have that type of relationship with them, maybe you don't have that type of relationship with her. Sometimes you have a woman that comes to the shiur and she's not modest. And a rabbi can't just go to any woman saying, by the way, listen, you have to put some clothes on. So there's a certain way to do it. So when you see people, you could already include these lessons into the shiur just by looking at people. And Baruch Hashem, when you tell people the truth, you have a lot more siyata d'ishmaya. When you tell people that you tell people the truth, and you are pleasing Hashem with what you're saying, then Hashem helps you and literally gives you the words to say. So now, going back to the going to the shiur, again, the schar, the reward that someone gets for going to the shiur versus someone that paid attention to the shiur on YouTube are two completely different worlds. Both are getting a reward, but the one that went to the shiur is involved and is in essence a partner in the shiur just by coming. So of course, listen, if you can't come, you can't come. At least watch the shiur. But if you can come, you could just know that the reward on one end, let's say it's 1,000, the other one is 1,000,000. It's not even, you can't even compare the two. It's not like 1,000 and 1,500, where it's like, you know what, I'll lose at 1,500. Sometimes like, you know what, I'm better off taking the sure 1,000 instead of risking for the 1,500. No, it's 1,000 or 1,000,000. It's two completely different worlds.
What do you think about a person who, how many percentages of people do you think could live their life like recognizing the Torah in every way, kind of like perfecting the zealousy and understanding that, you know, every little thing isn't a vera. You know, it takes a lot of heart. It doesn't happen overnight, right?
Of course not. No, no one can do tshuva overnight.
It's not tshuva. It's realizing like basic zealous things, like, you know, like you're not
being
wearing
zealous,
not wearing kippah 4 steps. You know, you're not that kind of stuff. You know, people can go insane if they getting
to the point of being zealous for Hashem in our generation. Mm-hmm. Someone that's not an avrech, someone that's not literally dedicating their entire life to Torah, is already a huge level, which of course we all are obligated to try to reach to that level. But it's beyond most people's comprehension, and that's actually one that has to do with a lot of what Nirel and I were talking before the shiur. Today was the 10th of Tevet, and we had a tzom, we had a talmid, and we're talking about, we never got to the answer, and B'ezrat Hashem we'll get to the answer, and then we'll start the Parashat. The question is, why does Hashem care if you eat or not? If He really wanted you not to eat, He'd do exactly what He did to Egypt in the Parashat Shabbat for the last couple of weeks. And He made a complete famine, complete hunger all over the world. The famine that they had wasn't just in Egypt, wasn't just in Canaan. It was the entire world had no food. Only one person in the entire world had food, Yosef HaTzadik. That's it. Anyone that wanted food, whether they lived in China, or they lived in Israel, or they lived in anywhere in the world, they wanted food, they had to come to Egypt to ask Yosef HaTzadik if they could give him some food. That's it. Imagine one person in the entire world has control of all of the food. He's the only one that has food. And even people that tried preserving the food, when they had extra, it went bad.
Right. Oh, wow.
So now if Hashem really wanted us to have a problem and not eat, He'd just make famine. Look what's happening with California right now. We talked about it a couple of weeks ago. California has a major problem right now where for the last 5 years they had a drought. 5 years in a row of drought. According to their statistics, not mine, not somebody else, according to their statistics, if they have a drought for one more year, they will run out of water completely.
You serious? Wow.
They'll run out of water completely. Now, what does this mean? Okay, California, it's far away from us. We're in Florida. They're in California. Well, how does it affect us, Bechlal? Okay, so 40, 50 million people that live in California are having a problem. So okay, fine. It's far away. It's like when we hear about things that are happening in in Africa. Mm-hmm. Kids are hungry. They don't have food. Okay, it's far away. It's I'll send them $100. What do you want for my life? That's most people's mentality. People need to understand that economically, California is the 8th largest economy in the world. So it's not just a big economy, it's the 8th largest in the world. So for example, you have tied for one, or maybe China is number one now, United States, largest economy in the world. Then you have China, or maybe China last year, according to some statistics, passed America. Either way, they're number 2. You have America, you have China. Then you have some other countries. Number 8 is not a country. Number 8 is just a state. Number 8 is California. So you just understand the massive size of California. The massive amount of importance of California according to what's everything else. So if they have a drought, again, and they run out of water, almost 80% of the fruits that we get here, or all over the country and in other parts of the world, come from California. So it's not just them suffering, it's the whole world suffering. It's a major problem. And we're talking about just one more year. they're going to run out of water. The solutions that they're already putting into place by using Israeli technology will take many years to really go into effect. It's not enough. Either way, we're really, if people from California, whether they're Jewish or not Jewish, we're paying attention to the shiur or paying attention to what's going on in their country. They literally read Tehillim, they read Psalms every day just to be saved next year. They don't realize what kind of danger they're in right now.
The whole state?
The whole state. They don't realize what kind of danger they're in. People are living their life. No, okay, my grass is brown now. Big deal. I'll get somebody else to give me newer grass. I have a lot of money. I have $20 million in the bank. I'll get more grass. People don't think of this as a problem. People don't realize that they're only one mistake away from losing everything. They don't realize. So if Hashem really wanted us to go back to our issue, if Hashem really wanted us to have hunger, if He cared about us fasting because of the hunger part, then He just do what's happening in California, all over the world, and that's it. So what does Hashem really care about us fasting, Bennett? Why do we fast on Yom Kippur? Why do we fast on Tisha B'Av? Why do we fast today?
Self-control.
The key is that our purpose is to serve our purpose in life. Our purpose in life is to connect to Hashem. The more physical we have, that means the less material we have. The more physical we have, the less spiritual we have. So the more we're involved with money, and women, and sex, and cars, and houses, yeah, you can close that thing. It makes a lot of noise for the roof. Thank you. The more we're involved with the material world, the more difficult it is for us, and almost virtually impossible for us, to connect with the ultimate spiritual, which is with Hashem. The less material, the less physical, the easier it becomes for us to connect to Hashem. So when Hashem is telling us for one day, I want you to lower material. What's the number one material that we have is food. You can't say it's money because a lot of people are poor in the world. You can't say it's women because some people don't have a wife. You can't say it's a fancy cars or houses or all of them. You can't say it's all of these things. What does every human being require every day? It's a basic necessity of life is food. So Hashem says, this is your number one desire, food. And it's not only a desire, you need the food to eat. He says, today, I want you to have less food, no food. Why? Because by you taking advantage of the opportunity of lowering the materialism, you could take advantage of the opportunity of connecting with me and increasing your spirituality. Unfortunately, most people think that ta'anit is just purely to get tortured. Mm-hmm. It's purely torture. It's purely Hashem giving us a punishment. In order for Him to forgive us, we have to punish ourselves. It's not true. Because most people come to the Knesset, on Yom Kippur or different holidays that have the fast. They think, they only talk about is the fast. It's so difficult. The funny thing is that the best proof of the Yetzer Hara is 2 seconds after the fast. Why? Because 2 seconds after the fast, you're not hungry anymore. You didn't eat. The fast is over. 2 seconds before the fast was over, you wanted to eat the guy next to you. The fast is over, all of a sudden, no, you know what, I can go till tomorrow. Nobody cares about the food anymore. But when the kids were walking around with the cookies and Bet Knesset and the little snacks and the bamba, you want to take the kid and the food and eat both of them. The fast is over, listen, he's talking to everybody else. Oh, how's work, how's life? Nobody's in a hurry to go home and eat schnitzel or anything like that. It's the best proof of the Yetzer Hara. Best proof. But, nonetheless, Hashem is telling us, I want you to lower the amount of materialism in your life, because if you lower the amount of materialism, you'll make more room for me. You'll make more room for spirituality. By making more room for spirituality, we can have a deeper connection that you could take advantage and use as a foundation for the rest of the year. So, when you want to truly connect to Hashem, you look at a ta'anit, you look at a fast as an opportunity for me to rid myself of the material world I'm used to and accustomed to and pretty much I'm part of every single day. Mm-hmm. To just use this stage, it's just me and Hashem. That's it, just me and Hashem today. Me and Hashem have a date. He wants me to be less material. I'm going to use this day to learn Torah, as difficult as it is. Even if you learn 15 minutes, a half hour during a day where it's difficult versus a day that's not difficult, 1,000 times more reward. So this is in essence when we have a tzom, when we have a fast, it's a major opportunity for us to increase our spirituality. But if you look at it as purely as a torture, then yeah, of course, it's going to be torture, and even more so. It's going to be something where you're not only not going to take advantage of the opportunity, but you're going to think bad things about HaShem. So now going back to your question in regards to how many people can truly get to become zealous for HaShem and understand that the connection to HaShem is the number one goal in life. It all depends of whether they can understand everything I just said right in the last 5 minutes. If they can understand the necessity for spirituality, they can become zealous for Hashem, and even to a very, very high level. If they don't understand the basic need for spirituality, there's no chance in the world. So now, you have people like Pinchas in the Torah that was so zealous that when they saw someone committing a sin, they literally killed him on the spot. They couldn't, despite the fact that that him himself was risking his life. He wasn't killing some guy in a corner, nobody knew, nobody would care, nobody would remember. He was killing the leader of the Shimon tribe in front of everybody. It wasn't like so he knew that as soon as he kills him, all of his soldiers, all of his people are going to find out about it. And as a matter of fact, after he did it, he killed him and the woman, Cosby. His people came inside, and from fear, his neshama left him. Hashem resurrected him. Hashem put him back to life and gave him extra power, and he ended up having such physical power and spiritual power. The spiritual power was so significant that he was able to take the spear, which he killed both of them at the same time with, and lift them both up in the air and take it from camp to camp to show everyone what he just did. What a Kiddush Hashem it was. Again, this is someone that's sinning. So being zealous, that's the goal. For us, that seems impossible. That seems even illogical. So let's start with the basic Torah. Let's just start with learning Torah 5 minutes a day. But the key is that we have to understand that our body has a certain need, but our neshama has even more of a need. I believe it was Rav Ovadia, if I'm not mistaken, that compared the body and the soul to a male and a female chicken. The chicken and the rooster. He said the body is like a chicken. It's like a female chicken. Why? Because if you don't feed it, 2 seconds you don't feed it, it makes the noise non-stop. It's not going to stop making noise. Until you give it food, it'll fight, it'll make chaos, non-stop. The neshama is like the rooster. The rooster, you don't give it food, doesn't say anything. Doesn't say anything until it falls and dies. That's it. Doesn't make a peep until it falls and dies. Same thing with the neshama. Neshama, you don't feed it every day. You live your life, you're feeding your goof, you're feeding your body. Healthy, even more than healthy, even an extra 100 pounds healthy. Healthy to the point of unhealthy. 20 years, 30 years, 40 years, 50 years, 60 years, you forget about the neshama already. One day you get to a point you feel this major emptiness, you go into a major depression. You have all the money in the world, you have family, you have kids, you have everything that everybody else desires, but you're depressed and you have no idea why. Why? Because your neshama, in essence, almost just practically died. You haven't fed it in so many years, it's literally, it's dying. This is why we need to feed our neshama every day, just like you need to feed your goof all day. 5 minutes, 10 minutes, 15 minutes, but Hashem even an hour, 2 hours, 5 hours. But we have to have a starting point of making time for the Torah. So, in the beginning of this week's parasha, we already could learn so many different lessons that are critical to a Jewish life. First verse talks about everything we just talked about. VaYechi Yaakov be'eretz Mitzrayim 17 shana, v'yimei Yaakov shnei chayav 7 shanim ve'arba'im shana, ve'arba'im u'me'at shana. Jacob lived in the land of Egypt 17 years, and the days of Jacob, the years of his life, were 147 years. So, at this point, Yaakov realized that it's his time. His time has come. He's going to leave this world. And but it's telling you that he's lived this this very long life. Why is it reminding us that he's lived this long life? Because it's telling you that unlike most people that are living their life without even knowledge of what they did yesterday, of what they did last week, people 5 minutes ago they don't remember what they did. Everybody just goes into the motion. We become robots. We get preoccupied with work. We get preoccupied with family. We get preoccupied with money, with sports, with all different things that are of this world. That it's very easy for us to forget all the things we're doing because we're already onto something else. Especially coming from the business world, from Wall Street, from New York, I can tell you that over there we're running 250 miles a day every day, that you forgot what you did 2 minutes ago, forget a week ago. You're so preoccupied with the world that you forget about meaning. You lose your meaning, you lose your purpose. All you're thinking about is the next step I need to do. And I used to wake up every day with my first word, instead of being modeh to HaShem, thanking HaShem for bringing my neshama, my first word out of my mouth would be a curse word. Why? Because I figured I was already late. 6 o'clock in the morning. It's not like I woke up at 11 or 12. 6 o'clock in the morning. Oh, I would say a curse word because I already figured subconsciously that I'm late for something. So this is mamash. This is when someone is distant from Hashem. There's no telling of how bad it can be. So unlike us, Yaakov knew literally and accounted for every single minute of his life. Every single minute of his life. The Vilna Gaon, it says that the tzaddikim, they literally do an accounting for their time every year. Every year they do an accounting of their time, what they spent their time. And one time one of his talmidim saw him crying. And he was doing his accounting, and they say, Kvod Harav, why are you crying? Tzaddik, this. Because there's 2.5 hours that I can't account for. He goes, what, for the last week? Oh, Chas v'Chalila last week. Chas v'Chalila this week. He goes, no, the whole year. There's 2.5 hours that I can't account for. I don't know what I did. The whole year. The whole year. He counted every minute that he had the whole year, and what he did every year. He had some time that he spent obviously learning, sometime he was helping people, sometime he was sleeping, eating, basic needs of life. But he has 2.5 hours, he doesn't know what he did. And he was crying about it. Imagine that's 2.5 hours per day we can't account for. So the key is that when someone is accounting for their time, it's like Yaakov, Hashem and Shamayim is already telling you, listen, every one of your years, every one of your minutes, you're going to remember each and every single moment. Now, of course, Yaakov wasn't as satisfied with his life because he's saying that I spent so much of my time being in sorrow and I didn't have as much of a full life as my forefathers, as my father Yitzchak, as my grandfather Avraham. They lived a much more full life and even longer life than I did. But nonetheless, the beauty of Yaakov is that from him is where the 12 tribes come from. From here, Am Yisrael comes from. So imagine him, the leader, is not feeling fulfilled. This gives even us more of a understanding of how much we need to understand and what we need to do for our life. So after this, it says he's making a deal with Yosef, and he says to Yosef, "I don't want to be buried in Egypt." There's a couple of reasons why Yaakov does not want to be buried in Egypt. Chazal explains to us that number one, he already saw the prophecy that the plagues are going to come to Egypt. And the kinim, lice, are going to come, and they're going to come under the ground, and they're going to eat bodies, and so on. He says, I don't want to be part of it. And also, if the Egyptians see that the lice are not going to eat my body because I'm a tzaddik, they're going to turn me into an idol. They're going to idol worship me. And also, even without the plague, even if Hashem decides to change the plague and not bring that plague, and give me special protection, the body of a tzaddik, a truly righteous person, does not disintegrate. And there's many proofs of it today. You see people sometimes, they open the graves to change somebody's grave. They open up the graves of some tzaddikim. They see a person that literally as if he died 5 minutes ago. It's mamash. It's something, it's scientific proof today. I'm not talking about just things that happened thousands of years ago that are nice stories and seem really far away from us. I'm talking about things that are proven today. So he knew that if the Egyptians saw that his body does not disintegrate, they're going to turn him into an idol. They're going to think he's more than human. And that's also why, that explains why, despite the fact that it's not allowed to mummify a Jewish body, Yosef mummified his father because he knew that if the Egyptians saw their ritual was to mourn the dead for 70 days. After just 3 days, anyone that knows a dead body after 3 days becomes very, very smelly, very disturbing. Body starts disintegrating. The worms start eating it. It's a horrible scene. So if they see it for 70 days, he doesn't even have smell. Nothing. He looks like he's sleeping. Doesn't even look like he's dead. They're gonna idol worship him. So Yosef made a decision where I'm gonna mummify him. So when they see that his body didn't change, they're gonna think it's because of their wisdom. They're gonna think it's because of their knowledge of how to mummify somebody and preserve the body.
Why did they worship him for 70 days?
70 days they didn't worship him. 70 days they mourned him.
They didn't bury him for 70 days.
More than 70 days.
Right?
Yeah, more than 70
But
days.
that's not Jewish tradition.
It's not Jewish tradition, but they were in the country of Egypt, so it's not like they had the ability to override the Egyptian law. Even though Yosef was technically the viceroy, the king over there, he was king under Paro. Paro could still override him. So if he tells Paro, listen, by the way, we're Jewish, we don't comply by your laws, then Paro could start questioning his loyalty. Paro can start questioning his loyalty and start saying, "Oh wait, is this guy really the proper king for us to have?" So she already learned Torah today. She doesn't need to learn anymore. She already fulfilled her obligation.
But he didn't even try.
No, the key was the trial was to see what Paro would say about something even simpler than not mourning him for 70 days. Something simpler about whether Paro is going to have a problem with if Yosef tells him, listen, I can't bury my father in your country. I have to bury him back in Ma'arat HaMachpelah in Israel. In Canaan is what it was called. If Paro didn't have a problem, then maybe you could ask him, listen, by the way, I really, in our tradition, we don't mourn people for 70 days. It's not, and we also don't mummify them and also. But he knew that as soon as Yaakov died, it already became a governmental issue. Everybody got involved right away. Everybody already talking about burying him right there and then. Yaakov was considered a very, very important and wise person in Egypt. It wasn't just Yosef's father. Paro, in last week's Parashat, asked Yaakov for a blessing. Paro was a big wizard. He wasn't somebody that asks blessings from anyone. The reason why he asked him for a blessing, the reason why he saw that he was a special person, is because on their meeting, Paro was only 1.5 amot, or 1 amah. He was a small, little, compact little person. And he was chasing pride so much that his door for where he had his throne was a small door, which forced every normal-sized person to go on all fours to go inside. So they could bow to him even without even wanting to bow to him. Now, obviously, HaShem is not going to allow Yaakov Avinu to bow to this person. So as soon as Yosef brought Yaakov to the throne, Hashem miraculously opened up the wall around Yaakov. So that's why the first question that Paro asked Yaakov was, how many years are you? Like, how many years and days have you lived in this life? What does he care how old he is? Because he already sees this is not a normal person. I've never seen someone like this that can do such things. So as soon as Yaakov died, it became a governmental issue. So that's why Yosef decided, instead of going to Paro himself, he sent people to Paro. He sent messengers to Paro, to Paro's maidservant, who had a special relationship with Paro's wife. And Paro's wife, of course, could influence Paro. The woman could always influence a man. That's why sometimes when women come to you and say, listen, my husband doesn't want to keep Shabbat, my husband doesn't want to do this, his husband doesn't want to do that. The reality is, if a woman wants something else, you could always get the husband to do it. Woman always has a way to control her husband in a positive way, sometimes in a negative way. But nonetheless, if a woman really wants her house to be kosher and righteous with HaShem, she could literally lead the house to do it. That's why a woman has a bigger responsibility to the house than a man does. So now he sent people to Paro, and Paro says, "No, ma pitom, you can't bury him outside. Why? Our country's not it's not good enough." And the messenger says, "No." Yosef said that his father made him swear. His father made him swear that he's going to bury him in the Kiruv Machpelah. So that's why in the verse it says, "Go bury him in Ma'at. Go bury him where he said, because he made you swear." Why did Paro care if he swore or didn't swear? He's not Jewish. He's not following the Torah. He's doing idol worship to the highest level possible.
Because Yaakov was special.
Even more so, because Yosef was smart. He says, "Just so you know, my father made me swear." And one of the messengers says, "Yeah, but you can cancel the swear. You're a viceroy." Then Yosef says, "Yes, you're right. I can cancel the swear. But if I cancel the swear, that means I have to cancel all of my swears. And I made another swear almost 10 years ago to Paro himself. When Paro saw me and I interpreted his dream, he was very amazed by me interpreting his dream. And he said, "You know what? You're going to be the viceroy. You're going to be number 2. Only I can override you." Now, if you really think about this logically, it makes no sense whatsoever. Okay, you interpreted the dream. Good job. You got a good job. I'll give you a raise. Instead of getting $50,000 a year, you get $250,000 a year. What are you giving the guy the number 2 position in the world, where according to Chazal, he gave him a monetary award of nearly $500 million on the day of his on that day, $500 million just to get a job. The guy was in jail 5 minutes ago because he interpreted a dream. You know how many dream interpreters Paro had? Okay, so they couldn't interpret this dream. Big deal. You're not giving him a good job. You're giving him your job. You have a company. You find out, okay, listen, there's a good employee. This guy is a extra good painter. You know what? You're such a good painter, I'm making you partner, 50-50. You have any person in the world does that?
No.
Nobody in the world is going to say that. Somebody says, "Oh, you know what? You're such a good mover. You're such a good mover. Customers like you so much. I'm giving you 50% of the company." You have any moving company that does that?
No.
No, right?
Not 50%.
So why is he giving him partnership? He's not giving him a job. He's giving him partnership. Chazal explains to us, according to the Gemara, is that the throne of Paro had 70 steps, one representing every language. And Paro knew 69 languages. And the law of Egypt was that the person that knows the most amount of languages is Paro, is the king. Wisdom. They counted wisdom, secular wisdom nonetheless, but they counted wisdom. Somebody knows the most amount of languages, that already means he knows everything else. He gets the job.
So what was the last language you didn't know? Hebrew?
Hebrew. So now Yosef only knew Hebrew in the beginning. Only knew a few languages, maybe 3-4 languages, like most people in that age, but he didn't know 70 languages. The day before Paro commanded for this dream interpreter to come, Malach Gabriel, the angel of Gabriel, came to Yosef and started teaching him all of the languages. But the body of Yosef was still a body, even though he was a very holy person, and he's the only person in the entire Torah that's called a tzaddik, Yosef a tzaddik. Still, his body couldn't handle learning 70 languages in one night, so HaShem gifted him the 70 languages. So when he came to the throne of Paro, Paro would say something in one of the words of the interpreters of the one of the words of the dream in one language, and Yosef would answer him in that language, and then he would say another language, and Yosef would answer him in that language. So each step he took represented that he knew one language, until he got to the 70th step. Paro ran out of languages, but Yosef said a new language that Paro never heard of, which was Hebrew, Sfat HaKodesh. And at that point, technically Yosef was supposed to become Paro. Technically Yosef was supposed to become number 1, not number 2. So Paro said to him, "Listen, I'm going to give you the job of being the viceroy, but you have to make a swear. Swear to me that you will never tell anyone that you know more languages than me." So now, many years later, Yosef already comes to Paro with this message. He's already telling Paro that, by the way, I need to bury my father in Marat HaMachpelah in a different country in Canaan because he made me swear. And Paro responds, because he made you swear, you can go. Because obviously you can't cancel. You cancel one swear, you cancel all the swears.
That's right.
So, but that also, again, already showed that Paro had a problem with the whole issue to begin with, and that's also why the Torah says that when they left their children. They took everything except the children. They left their children in Egypt. Why? Because Paro wanted some type of collateral to make sure that they come back.
Yeah.
He wants some collateral. So now, Yaakov, going back to the beginning here, Yaakov is making a deal with Yosef. He's saying, swear to me that you're going to bury me. V'asita imadi chesed ve'emet. He said, please, if I found favor in your eyes, please place your hand under my thigh and do kindness and truth with me. So this one particular sentence has a lot of chokhmah, a lot of things that we need to learn. First of all, why is Yaakov saying kindness and truth? Why? Do me a favor, okay, bury me somewhere else. Why? He understands. Because the best type and the only type of true kindness that you can do for someone is when you expect nothing in return. If you're doing someone kindness because you're expecting, you know what, maybe if I do this guy a favor, maybe one day his company is going to give me a contract. Or maybe one day I'm going to need him and he's going to give me a loan. Or maybe one day he's going to give me a job. That's not true kindness. That's business. That's a loan. Maybe if I donate some money to the Bet Knesset, they're going to put a little banner with my name on it on the building. That's business. That's not true kindness. So if you want to do true kindness, then you have to look at the kindness you do for the dead. Why kindness you do for the dead? Because the dead can't give you anything in return. The second thing is that we have to look into is that it says Simna yadecha tachat yechi. Yechi is not really my thigh. It's not really a good translation of thigh. Yechi means your brit. The male organ. If you notice, this is not the first time this is mentioned. Avraham also, when he made a deal to send his number one person to go find a wife for his son, he made a deal with them. And the same way they made the deal, he put his hand under his brit. To us, this seems ridiculous. To us, this seems even something's wrong with these people. And what we have to realize is there's something wrong with us, not them. Why? Because the tzaddikim, especially our avot, they knew the value of the brit. They knew the true significance of a man's brit. The brit of the man, the circumcision of the man, is a deal. It's a covenant between us and Hashem to know that we are chosen people, to know that it's an eternal covenant, to know that we have to constantly think about him at all times, and most importantly, we have to protect this covenant. Now, if somebody made a deal with you, you sign a deal with somebody, listen, I'm going to give you a $100 million contract for your company. You have a construction company, a moving company, a computer company, it doesn't matter. You have a $100 million contract. And the guy gives you a contract, he signs the deal. Now that contract, are you just going to throw it in the car? Maybe in a glove compartment? Or are you going to throw it maybe next to the newspapers or maybe in the bathroom? What are you going to do with that contract, Tomer?
Safe.
Put it in a manila folder.
And what else after that?
Put it in the briefcase.
And after that?
Take the briefcase, put it on me.
And after that?
After what?
After with the briefcase. You're going to keep the briefcase on you at all times? Where are you going to put the briefcase?
And then eventually that manila folder come out of the briefcase and go in some safe. Or
Safe, right? It goes to the safe.
something.
Halak v'bo. So you got the safe.
steps.
שאל אותי, ככה אני עושה, מה אתה רוצה?
Amen.
Take a picture of it and
The bottom line is that eventually it gets to a safe. Why? Because it's very, very important. It's the most important thing. Why? Because if that contract goes bad, if it gets wet, the signature gets erased, the guy calls you one day, he goes, you know what? I don't really feel like doing business with you anymore. You already spent all the money on the material. You already spent $60 million on material. You didn't get you didn't get all the money yet.
You didn't get
You didn't get the money yet. So the guy says, I don't feel like doing business with you already. You already spent the money. You can't go to Home Depot and say, hey, by the way, $60 million worth of goods back. There's no return policy for $60 million worth of goods.
Just make 20 copies.
So what do? You protect this. You say, listen, by the way, I have a contract. I have a contract you signed that if you don't give me this money, I could sue you, and I'm going to win even more than this contract because you have to pay my legal fees and my anguish and all these other things that you could add to the $100 million. Nonetheless, the contract is the most valuable thing. If you don't have a contract, you don't have anything. I know from my own personal experience, I had without going into too much details because it's not necessarily relevant, but I had a deal with somebody in my business days. He wanted me to lend him $500,000. So me, in those days I had a lot of money, so it was no problem. I said I had my, I even gave him the money before I drafted up the contract, but because I trusted the guy. But nonetheless, I had lawyers that drafted out the contract. I spent $18,000 on the contract. On the contract. The reason why we did it was supposed to be a bigger deal. Nonetheless, I lent the guy $500,000. Wired the guy $500,000. We have the contract. Once there was a problem with the contract, once there was a problem with the guy didn't have the money to pay me back, the market blew up, he lost everything, and so on, he couldn't pay me back. The only thing that's worth anything is that contract. If I go to the guy, listen, I know you're not making as much money, but you still owe me $500,000. It was supposed to be a 90-day loan. It's turned into a 3-year loan. I could exercise this contract. You have to sell other assets. You have to give me real estate. You have to give me something else. Now, if not $18,000 I spent on that contract was worthless, I have a problem. If the lawyers were retarded and they made a mistake where the collateral they made was not the collateral that it was supposed to make, that contract is worthless. That $18,000 is worthless, and the $500,000 is worthless because I have no security for my business deal. Same contract here. $100 million, you have a contract. If you have no contract, the guy wants to screw you, he could screw you. Same concept here. They know that HaShem made a contract with Am Yisrael. He said you have to circumcise yourself. But when you circumcise yourself, you have to treat this Brit with respect. You can't just go around and use this Brit with anybody you want. You can't just use this Brit and do whatever you want with it. You have to treat it with respect. Yaakov Avinu knew how valuable this Brit is, and he treated it with so much respect that until the age of 84, until he got married with Leah, not even one seed left his body. Not even one seed. Nothing left his body. The first time his Brit was ever used was to cohabit with his wife Leah and have Reuven. Every single time his Brit was used was for a purpose, because he knew that wasting seed is one of the biggest sins in Judaism. You're murdering 300 million people each time. According to scientists, there's 300 million seeds average in every ejaculation of a male. So someone that's wasting their seed, in essence, they're killing 300 million potential lives. That's a problem to go up to Shemaim and say, oh, by the way, on Monday I killed 300 million. On Tuesday I killed 600 million because it was an extra busy day. On Wednesday, no, it was only 300 million. On Saturday, and the weekend we went to the clubs with the bars, with the drinks. It was so much fun. 1.5, billion. It's a problem to go up to Shemaim. You have all this wasted seed. Yaakov knew this. Yaakov knew this, and he treated it with so much respect that his Brit was just like his finger. Same thing. Just like you treat your finger with respect. When you cut something, you're not going to cut your finger with a piece of wood. Right? You treat it with respect. Because it's valuable to you. Same thing with the Brit. He says, my Brit is the same thing as my hand. It's just like we shake hands today. Why do we shake hands today? Because we're showing a sign of confidence. I'm telling you I'm honest. You're telling me you're honest. I'm telling you I'm going to deliver on my deal. You're telling me you're going to deliver on your deal. Same thing, right? That's why we shake hands. But if we really realize it, that also shows us how far we are from Avotenu. That shows us how far we are from the real sages, from the real forefathers of the world. Because for them, you didn't need to shake hands. The Brit was pure. Today, whose Brit is pure? Whose Brit is pure? There are a few tzaddikim in the world, Baruch HaShem, but in reality, the vast majority of the world, they don't even know what the Brit is. You understand? So this is already in the beginning, he's already telling you, do mi chesed, let's do this deal. Chazak u'baruch, thank you for coming. So now, we move on, And the next thing we find out is that after Yosef agrees, he leaves, and it says that the people of Yosef come to Yosef, and it says, ויהי אחרי הדברים האלה ויאמר ליוסף, הנה אביך חולה. ויקח את שני בניו עמו, את מנשה ואת אפרים. And it came to pass after these things that someone said to Joseph, behold, your father is ill. If anyone notices, this is the first time that it mentions that anyone became ill in the Torah. Why? Because Yaakov was the first person that ever became sick. It's in the closet. Yaakov was the first person to ever get sick. Why did Yaakov get this schut of being the first person of getting sick? Because in those days, before people died, they wouldn't know that they're dying. Just one day somebody would sneeze and die. And that's why we say labriut when someone or in English God bless you, because in those days before Yaakov, someone would literally look perfectly normal, perfectly healthy, sneeze, dies. So as a reminder, we say somebody sneezes, maybe for your health, may you not die. May you not die. Straight up. Technically in the old days, somebody sneezes means they're dying right now. They're dead. On the spot. Middle of the street, the guy's walking, he's shopping, he's getting some groceries for Shabbat, sneezes, dies. That's it. So Yaakov says, somewhere dies on the spot, Hashem, he doesn't have enough time to finalize his business. If he has an inheritance to give his kids, if he has, it's in the closet.
No. This is the keys to the Jaguar.
Okay. Jaguar? No, there's no lights on that car.
No, I'm talking about this keys here.
No, okay, guys, fine. Leave it on already. It doesn't really matter. Let's just focus on Torah. Let the cars blow up for like it. Let's focus on the Torah. We don't have that much more time. So now, Yaakov said, "I appreciate it. It's just I don't want you guys to waste time on that stuff. Let's just sit and learn." So Yaakov said, Hashem, somebody dies, they can't fix all their stuff, they can't give the inheritance if they want to give inheritance, if they want to finalize certain contracts, if they owe somebody money, and the kids don't know about it. So why don't you do something to give them a signal that they're going to die soon? So Hashem says, good idea. Not that Hashem didn't have the idea, but Hashem constantly wanted the Bnei Adam, he constantly wanted Am Yisrael to be involved in creation. Just that's the reason why we also have the Brit in the first place. Hashem didn't make us, in a way where to show us he didn't make a mistake. One of the Kofrim came to Rabbi Akiva, and he says that, you're saying that Hashem created the heaven and the earth, he's perfect, he knows the future, he knows the past, he knows everything, but you're saying he made a mistake, that two contradict each other. Rabbi Akiva says, I already know what you're talking about. You're saying that the Brit Mila, because we do Brit Mila after 8 days, then that's almost saying that Hashem made a mistake. But that's your mistake. Why? Because Hashem wanted us to be partners with Him in creation. And that's why He created us imperfect. He created us with 97%, where after we do the Brit, we become 100%. Not like Tzal, the IDF in Israel think that after someone has a Brit Milah, they put on his profile 97%. There's no limitation. That's what they do. I'm not making this up. There's no limitation to how far we can be from the Torah when we don't learn it every day. So now we have a situation here where Yaakov is dying. He became sick. He asks for his sons to come. First people that come is Yosef and his two sons. And there's a interesting story about how Yaakov decides to bless the older son Ephraim, the younger son Ephraim, before he blesses Menashe. Where he blesses him in essence at the same time, but he puts his right hand on the younger son instead of putting the right hand on the older son. But before this, it says something very, very interesting. Yaakov asks Yosef to bring his kids. Yosef follows, brings his kids. As soon as he brings his kids, Yaakov says, Mi ele. Who are these? Now, Yaakov is not some old man is becoming senile. You just asked him to bring the kids. Why are you saying, who are these? Anyone heard about this?
Yaakov is asking
Got
Yosef,
blind.
who are these?
He's blind.
Got blind like it's.
Okay. But later on, if it was about the blind, later on when Yosef, after he sees that his father Yaakov is blessing Ephraim with the right hand instead of the left hand, he tries to correct him. He says, no, Abba, this is not the way to do it. It's supposed to be the opposite. And Yaakov says to him, no, I know, my son, I know. This is in verse 19, Yutet. V'yamen avi v'yom yadati b'ni yadati. I know. Okay, so if you obviously know that you're blessing the younger son with
So
the right hand.
You don't know who they are, but you know left and right.
Right.
So he knew.
Can't be because of the blind.
He knew who they were.
So-
I remember something like this, but I don't know the whole thing.
What?
Something about his
Start us off.
Something about his Shekhinah left them when they walked in.
No, that was,
Zaku
wasn't
Baruch.
that-
Can. No.
Wasn't that with the future telling?
Also.
happened twice.
Also
This
happened
is
twice.
But I forgot the rest of it. Why
Ah,
Shekhinah left them and why it came back.
ברוך שכיוונת.
Oh, yeah.
ברוך שכיוונת.
Nice.
So, Yaakov, Shekhinah left him for a second, and then he sees a prophecy of who the descendants
Of
of Ephraim and Menashe are going to be. And he sees that some of their descendants are not going to be exactly tzaddikim. You have Yerovam, שאין לו חלק לעולם הבא, he has no share of the world to come, and Achav.
He's a fire.
He sees these wicked people coming from these righteous...
Well, Yoshua also.
Exactly. But at the same token, we have a problem here. So he says, Mi ele. Who are these kids? He doesn't mean who are these kids. Who are these descendants? How could it be that from righteous children that you have, such wicked descendants can come out of them? Mi ele. Who are these?
The end of his
How could
life.
it be? Did you make a sin, Yosef?
Seeing things.
Did you make a sin? I know you didn't make a sin with Potiphar's wife because my image appeared to you at the last minute. According to the Gemara, Masechet Sotah, Yosef got to the point where he almost made a sin. Baruch haba. Almost made a sin with Potiphar's wife. He didn't run away right away. He got to the house, he was ready, according to some of the sages, he got to the house, he almost made the sin. He was ready to make the sin, but his father's image appeared to him and says, just so you know, one day there's going to be the Choshen, it's going to be on the Kohen HaGadol in the Beit HaMikdash, and the names of each of the tribes is going to be written. But if you make this sin, your name will not be there. But already at that point, Yosef was already aroused. He already has his physical passion is already in. What is he going to do? Gemara says something extraordinary. Yosef knew that if he makes this sin, this is an eternal sin. This is not just today. This is not I made a mistake, I wasted some seed, big deal. Like a lot of people today think. Okay, I have a girlfriend today, tomorrow she's not my girlfriend, no big deal. Okay, I wasted some seed, no big deal. What's up? What, HaShem really cares about one? Okay, I made a mistake, tomorrow I'll do tshuva. Yosef knew this is an eternal sin. Yosef knew that his body cannot hold this seed inside his body. He cannot hold it. So he took his hands and buried them into the ground. Smashed his hands, literally, trying to break his own hands, his own fingers, into the ground. To cause his body such anguish that it would kill the passion. It would kill the arousal that he has. And Chazal says, it was so much so that the seed miraculously left through his fingernails. Left through his fingernails. Alvay aleinu if we ever make such a sin, to have such passion to not make a sin like that. Do that type of. So now, Yaakov is asking him, listen, I know you didn't make a sin with Potiphar's wife. But mi ele, who are these kids that you have such wicked descendants? Is your wife kosher? Who was his wife last week's parasha? Osnat. Osnat but Potiphar. Osnat the daughter of Potiphar. Potiphar Jewish? He's not Jewish. So So how could he marry her? How could Yosef a tzaddik
That's Dina's
marry
kid.
Osnat?
That's Dina's kid.
Zaku Baruch. That's what happened. So he says to him, "Is your wife kosher? Is your wife kosher? Was a legal marriage?" So Yosef goes to his safe and he brings out a medallion, and he says, "When Paro wanted to make me the viceroy, he says it's not the king. The king can't be a bachelor. He has to have a wife. So you have to find yourself a wife right away." Yosef was a beautiful man. So when Paro gave him a chariot, a special chariot, all the women in the street will do everything they can to show themselves to him. They'll throw their clothing at him, their underwear, everything they could just to get his attention. Everybody, and now that they found out that he's a bachelor, everybody said, Avrech, Avrech. That's what they called him. That's where the word Avrech comes from. That was the nickname that the Egyptians gave to Yosef HaTzadik, Avrech. The advisor of the father. That's what Avrech. People think Avrech means some, little yeshiva boy, he doesn't know anything what he's talking about. Avrech is a advisor with the father, connecting directly with HaShem. He interpreted dreams. He has direct contact with HaShem. It's direct dial with HaShem. The Egyptians recognized this. They called him Avrech, Avrech. So now, the women are throwing their underwear at Yosef. Yosef is not looking at anyone. But all of a sudden, something falls into the chariot. It's a little medallion. He sees the medallion. It's a writing that no Egyptian can read. Why? It's in Hebrew. It's in Sfat HaKodesh. No one spoke Hebrew in Egypt. Only Yosef. And he sees that on this, my name is Osnat. I am from the descendants of Avraham, Yitzhak, and Yaakov. He looks, who is this Osnat? He sees Osnat. He says, this is Dina's daughter. I'm allowed to marry her. She's a Jew. So now when his father asks him, Mi ele, who are these? Is your marriage kosher? He brings him the medallion. Oh, Abba, I didn't make a sin. My wife is kosher. Look, you inscribed this. When you told Dina, after Dina was raped by Shechem, Dina was embarrassed. She got pregnant by a rape. So to look at a baby after a rape every day, she can't kill the baby. It's asur. It's 100% murder. You can't have abortions in Judaism. It's 100% murder. Even in non-Judaism, you're not allowed to have abortions. So you can't have abortions. She just got raped. Seeing the baby every day reminds her of the rape. It's a big embarrassment to the family, big embarrassment to her. It bothered her. She goes to her father. She's crying every day. Yaakov says to her, listen, give her to a respectable family in Egypt, and they'll raise her. But she has to remember, she has to know when she grows up that she comes from our family. So Yaakov himself put a special medallion together, and he inscribed himself in Sfat HaKodesh that he knew none of the Egyptians can read. And under the deal that he made with Potiphar, she has to have this, and all the time she has to carry this. She's not going to know Hebrew. She's learning from Potiphar, but she has to have this all the time.
So she's the one that threw it.
So she knows one day she discovers that she is from us. She can't think she's really your daughter. So when she threw it at Yosef, and he saw this is a Jew, he brings this to his father. He goes, "No, Abba, you're the one that wrote this." This is a kosher marriage, and that's when he gave the kids the blessing. After he showed them, after he said, Mi ele, who are these? Then after that, he showed them this, and that's when he gave them the blessing. And he tells them, may all of Am Yisrael, shall all of Israel bless by saying, may God make you like Ephraim and Menashe. So 1 second you're saying, who are these? Next second you're saying, may everybody be like Ephraim and Menashe. Why? Because after he showed them it's a kosher wedding, another prophecy came to Yaakov, and he says, the good ones that come out of Ephraim and Menashe. And he sees Yeshua ben Nun. Like the tzaddik here over here said. He said, Yeshua ben Nun is coming from him. Who's Yeshua ben Nun? Yeshua ben Nun took leadership after Moshe Rabbeinu. Most important person in Am Yisrael. Which one thing you should know about Teshuva, Yeshua ben Nun is one of the most important examples in our history, showing us the significance of Teshuva. A lot of people that do Teshuva, or conversion, constantly think about their past. But the story of Yeshua ben Nun and his wife Rachav is a reminder to us that all of those thoughts of your past are complete Yetzirah. They have no value whatsoever in your real life right now once you've done real Teshuva. People think about their sins. I did this, I did this, I did this. And now they're not doing it. Now they're not making the sins. They're doing tefillin, they're keeping Shabbat. They're not wasting seed. They're doing all the things that we need to do. But they're still thinking about, oh, I did this, I did this, I did this. And all of a sudden, they start losing momentum. They're like, oh, I made so many sins in my past. Maybe Hashem doesn't want to accept my tshuva. Maybe Hashem doesn't, I'm already a lost cause. So how does Yeshua ben Nun and Rachav teach us about this? Yeshua ben Nun was the most important person of Am Yisrael. He was the leader after Moshe Rabbeinu. You don't have to explain more than that, right? His wife Rachav was not only a prostitute, a famous prostitute, but she wasn't even Jewish. But after she discovered the truth of the Torah and what Hashem did for the Jews, she came to Am Yisrael. She came and she helped Am Yisrael by hiding them. But nonetheless, she chose not only to hide them, but she said, we heard, meaning all of the Goyim heard what Hashem did for you. How'd she hear? What? She went down to Mount Sinai? How'd she hear?
Everybody heard.
The entire world. So when Mount Sinai happened, everyone, all the nations in the world saw it in the sky. Like a projector. A projected image all over the sky where all the nations in the world knew that Mount Sinai was happening. Knew everything that Am Yisrael was seeing in Mount Sinai, all of the nations of the world knew. That's why they said, we heard. They saw it. They saw the call. They saw the sounds of Hashem, the words of Hashem. Everybody knew. That's why no religion ever doubted what happened in Mount Sinai. Christianity doesn't doubt Mount Sinai. Catholicism doesn't doubt Mount Sinai. Islam doesn't doubt Mount Sinai. Everybody agrees that Mount Sinai happened. No one in the world, other than the atheists that don't believe in anything, which is a belief of itself, no one that has any type of religion says that Mount Sinai didn't happen. This was a promise from Hashem. So Rachav is telling you, listen, I not only want to help you, but I want to be part of you. So she converted. A convert is considered a baby. Their past is considered nothing. Same thing like a Baal Tshuva. A Baal Tshuva that's truly doing Tshuva, not just doing half of Shabbat. Not just eating kosher at home, but he's eating McDonald's outside. Real Tshuva. Someone that's really doing Tshuva is considered a baby. His past is not relevant. Why? Because after she converted, not only did she become a Jew, she became a Jew married to the most important Jew. So that's why sometimes somebody says, listen, I want to get a chidush, but I want someone that's been religious since birth. There's no bigger foolishness than that. Religious from birth is good, but a Baal Tshuva could get even to a high level. Because the Baal Tshuva saw the other side. Rachav saw the other side and chose God. She didn't have to. She wasn't obligated by the mitzvot. She chose God. And that's why Hashem rewarded her. Same way that he rewarded Yitro. Yitro was the Pope for the Goyim. He was the biggest idol worshiper in the world. After he heard about what happened in Mount Sinai, he gave up everything, all the money, all the kavod, everything he gave up to become a simple Jew. That's it, just become a simple Jew. What did Hashem give him? His son-in-law was Moshe Rabbeinu. So you see that Hashem, these Baalei Tshuva, these converts, he gives them there's no ending to their reward. So now, after Yaakov blesses the sons of Yosef, and he tells them that they have become like my sons, just like Reuven and Shimon are my sons, your sons are my sons. They are becoming part of the tribe, part of the 12 tribes. After that, Yaakov called his sons and asked them to assemble themselves, so to all come. Why? ויקרא יעקב אל בניו ויאמר האספו ואגיד אליכם את אשר יקרא אתכם באחרית הימים. Yaakov calls his sons and said, assemble yourselves and I will tell you what will befall you in the end of days. He's going to tell them when the Mashiach is going to come. He's going to tell them what's going to happen when the Mashiach comes. He's going to tell them all the details about the end of days. But then after that, they gather themselves You go in front of him. And then you see, he's not telling him about the end of days. First, Reuven, he tells you are my firstborn, and then he rebukes him. He tells him about the mistake that he made. You lost your firstbornhood. You lost it because of the mistake you made, because you got involved in my marriage. Then Shimon and Levi, he also rebukes them too. Cursed is your rage. He doesn't curse them, but the fact that you went and you killed a whole nation of Shem, you have too much rage with no control is not good. That's what Rabbi Meir Balanes learned from his wife Bruya. When Rabbi Meir Balanes in Gemara Masechet Brachot, it says Rabbi Meir Balanes had these avaryanim, these gangsters outside his house every day bothering him. So he come home and he start praying for them to die. And Bruya says, don't you know you're not allowed to pray for Jews to die? For sinners, you have to hate the sinners, not the sinners. You should pray for them to do tshuva. And it's written in the Gemara, because why? Because Rabbi Meir says, you're right. So he prayed for them to do tshuva. And he prayed for them to do tshuva, they did tshuva. Where you learn this? She gives this as one of the examples. This is one of the examples. Hate the sins, not the sinner. When I talk about people that are mechalel Shabbat, when I talk about people wasting seed, when I talk about people that are making all these different sins, chas v'shalom, I'm not judging them. I don't hate them. I love them even extra. I talk about them because I love them. Same thing with every rabbi talks about sins, tells the truth. Not that he doesn't like people that sin, chas v'shalom. Love those people. That's what you mention them. If I didn't care for them, I wouldn't talk about them. So why do you mention them? Isn't it embarrassing to know, listen, you talk about Chilul Shabbat, one of the people sitting right next to you is Mechalel Shabbat? Isn't it embarrassing to them? No, you mention it to them. Why? Because you love them, because you don't want them to be a sinner. You hate the sins. It's not your fault. You don't know. That's why you're Mechalel Shabbat. You don't know. That's why you waste seed. You don't know. That's why your wife is nida every day. You don't know. That's why you don't do tefillin. You only do it 3 times a week. You don't do it 5 times, 6 times, 6 times a week like you're supposed to. You don't know. So I'm mentioning it because I love you. So that's what Yaakov is telling us. Hate the sins. Your sins, or your rage, your anger, that's what's cursed. Not you, chas v'shalom. Then Yehuda, he gives him blessings, and he gives the rest of the brothers blessings. But over here, it says something different. He says, let me tell you what's going to happen at the end of days. Where is this end of days? So Chazal tells us that he did tell them about the end of days, but only some parts. He told them about Gog and Magog. He told them about the ending war of what's going to happen in our days. What already started. Quietly, but nonetheless started. He told them about the war. He told them about what's going to happen, all the exiles that we're going to have. But when it came to telling them exactly the day the Mashiach is going to come, his Ruach HaKodesh left him. Why? Hashem didn't want him to tell people. Why? Because if people knew when the Mashiach is going to come, they're going to think they're going to think with their evil inclination they could outsmart Hashem. If I know the Mashiach is going to come next week, then I'll do tshuva this week. But if I know the Mashiach is going to come in 3 years from now, then I'll wait a week, 2 weeks, 3 weeks before the Mashiach comes. I'll do tshuva. A day before Mashiach comes, I'll do tshuva. An hour before Mashiach comes, I'll do tshuva. There's 2 problems with this. Number one, it's a flawed mentality, because doing tshuva is not a 1-minute process. Doing tshuva is a process, a long-term process. It's not just about being sorry for the sins. It's understanding the meaning of why you're even sorry. You can't learn all those things in 1 second. You can't learn about all the sins that you made and start thinking about all the sins you made in 1 second. Second of all, when are you going to have time to do mitzvot? Okay, so you're sorry about the sins. Some of those sins that you're sorry about, that you thought about, that you made because you knew what they were, you're sorry about them, so they turn into shogeg. They turn into accidental sins. Say that. But what about the mitzvot? You didn't make any mitzvot. You go up to Shamayim with a zero account balance. That's not good. So tshuva is a process. But people that don't learn Torah don't know this, so they think that when people say, when the sages say that someone can do tshuva right before they die, they really mean it. They really mean that you can do a complete tshuva to such a point where you can do whatever you want your whole life knowingly. Knowingly. It's nonsense. It's misunderstanding of what the Divrei Tzadikim. There's yes, of course, you could feel bad, and there's even stories in the Gemara of one of the people that was a big rasha, went, not only wasted seed, went with prostitutes, made every sin he could possibly can. One day, one of the prostitutes comes to him and he says, "Oh, what? You're Jewish? You are less Jewish than everybody else. There's no chance for you to ever do tshuva. God would never accept somebody like you. You make so many sins. You're with all my prostitute friends." And it really hit home with him. It really hit his heart. So much so that he started crying and crying and crying. And the more he cried, the more his heart and neshama opened. Started thinking about all the sins that he's been making. Is it possible that Hashem is not going to accept my tshuva? Is it possible that Hashem doesn't completely disconnect? I'm disconnected from Him? It finally hit home. He cried so much, he cried himself to death. Died. A bat kol came out from Shamayim and says, the Olam Haba accepts the rabbi. They called him a rabbi even. Why? Because he did full tshuva, but that's full tshuva. He cried himself to death. You think anybody in our generation cried himself to death? I forget his name. If I remember.
No, I got it. Eliezer ben Turdaya, I think.
כן, תורדיה, כן, חזק וברור. רבי אליעזר בן תורדיה. תורדיה, משהו כזה, כן. So the heavenly voice came out, the Olam Haba accepts it. That's the full tshuva where he's crying himself to death. It's not being sorry, it's crying yourself to death. You think anybody in our generation can cry himself to death? You think anybody can cry for more than a few hours even? So Rabbi Yehuda Nasi heard the bat kol, heard the heavenly voice, and he started crying. He says, some people can buy the next world. We go through anguish our whole life just to hopefully get Olam Haba. We do mitzvot, we give tzedakah, we do chesed, we keep all of this, we limit our desires, everything we do to hopefully have share of the world to come. So somebody can buy his next world in one moment. One moment. Once somebody does something real, true tshuva. So that is a little bit misunderstood by some people, where they really believe that the day that they get to the hospital bed when they're 89 years old, they can do tshuva. People misunderstand this. But Rebbe also teaches us something else. Something else about how he's crying about how we try to do all of these things, and somebody can buy the next world. He's teaching us the significance of Kiddush Hashem. Now, the story I'm about to tell you happened 2 weeks ago. If I would have told you the story without telling you that it happened 2 weeks ago, you would have thought the story happened at least 2,000 years ago, because we don't think things like this happen anymore. 2 weeks ago, there was a very, very big party in Jerusalem. Very big party in the most fancy hotel in Jerusalem. Cost 2 million shekel. Just that party. 2 million shekel. It wasn't a wedding. It wasn't a bar mitzvah. It wasn't an anniversary. What was it? It was Siyum HaShas. The completion of the Shas. 2 million shekels. Now, immediately I thought when I first heard the story, somebody spent $500,000, 2 million shekels, about $500,000 on one night. They're multimillionaire, he's a billionaire even. What's him? $500,000, big deal. It's a rounding error on his bank account. Mm-hmm. The person that had this party, not only is he poor, he doesn't even have a house. He doesn't even have his own house. And this money is money that he collected over 5 years of every day collecting tzedakah. Just for this, without taking even 1% for himself. What's the story? This is a Baal Tshuva. Baal Tshuva. Man, look how amazing some of the Am Yisrael is, really. Mamash. Baal Tshuva really, really got into it. He says, listen, we do everything for our own desires. Everything we do it for ourselves. We eat because we like food. We do this, we do this. Even the mitzvot we do it because we know Hashem's going to reward us. It's okay. It's okay to do mitzvot because Hashem's going to reward you. Even David HaMelech said, I'm doing mitzvot because Hashem promised the reward. David HaMelech, Kodesh Kodashim. So it's okay. It's not a bad thing. But if you could do a mitzvah, like the description of what Yaakov Avinu is saying to Yosef, do me chesed. Chesed for the person that's dying. Chesed without expecting anything in return. That's Kiddush Hashem. So this Baal Tshuva says, every time somebody finishes the Shas, finishes the entire Gemara, it's a big, big undertaking. He says we have to do something special. So he got a bunch of people, big tzaddikim, and he says, let's all commit, each person commit to as much as you can take, each person do a masechet, or more, that you learn by heart. Not learn the Shas. Learn it by heart. As long as it takes you. Learn it, the whole masechet, the whole tractate, by heart. I'm talking about some of these tractates are 150 pages. 150 pages of the Gemara pages is not only technically 300 pages because it's back and forth, but even one page is more difficult than any textbook you have in the world, the entire textbook. One page. When you finish the Shas, you finish one Masechet, you're supposed to do a party. You finish the entire Shas, it's supposed to be a big event. He's saying, no, do something even more for Hashem. Each one of us will learn a Masechet by heart. He himself took Masechet Ketubot, big Masechet. We'll learn it by heart, and I promise you that when we each one of us finish, we're going to do a big party for the Siyum HaShas, for the completion of the Shas. After 5 years, he's studying, of course. He barely has food to eat, the guy, but he's studying. And on top of that, every day he's collecting money. Every day he's collecting money for this eventual party that's going to happen. This party, he spared no expense. Each one of the people that learned the Gemara, he bought him a brand new suit, a brand new clothes. He bought his wife a brand new gown. Each one like they're going to their wedding. 2 million shekels, he says, I'm getting it Hashem. Hashem deserves the best. I'm going to get the biggest hotel, the best hotel in Jerusalem, not just a standard hotel. The best food, the best music, the best everything. Something mamash unbelievable. He himself learned Masechet Ketubot, so when he signs Masechet Ketubot. He doesn't sign his name. He signs Masechet Ketubot, the tractate of Ketubot. He mamash became one with this Masechet. This person doesn't even have a house. The people that's studying, some of them don't even have food to eat. Now, if you think about it, okay, so he collected 2 million shekels. Take a little bit for yourself. Nobody's going to know. Between you and you and Hashem, okay, you collected 2 million. Take 200,000 for yourself. Take 300,000 for yourself. Buy yourself a house. Buy yourself some food. Start a business, something. Not 1 shekel. Not 1 shekel he took for himself. Not one. The guy, I'm telling you, the guy's poor. And the best part about it, 99% of the people that came to the party don't even know it's him. Don't even know he's the one that organized this whole thing. Even the big invitation he spread out all over Israel. Invitation to all over Israel for people to come. Even in the invitation, when you see his name, it's right next to a few other people. You don't even know it's him. He doesn't have like Masechet Ketubot or his name and president, CEO, organizer, I don't know, tzaddik, nothing. You just
Anonymously.
might as well be anonymous. That's in our generation, my friends. That's in our generation. There's still major tzaddikim that really truly understand what it is to connect to Hashem on a deepest level. So now when Yaakov is coming to his sons, he says, let me tell you about the end of days. Hashem tells him, no, you can't tell him about the day that the Mashiach is going to come. Now, if anyone has noticed anything on the internet connecting to anything, you've noticed that there's a lot of problems going on around the world. And the problems are no longer just economic. They're no longer just fears of global warming. They're no longer just fears about maybe we're going to lose more of the endangered species, some special type of tiger or special type of bird. They're no longer about whether one company is cheating their clients or not. The problem today is that we are literally on the verge of World War III, which many believe already started. More developments about that in the past week is that Turkey and Russia are officially at war. It's not just a accident anymore, where Turkey actually announced, the leader of Turkey said, we can conquer Russia in 7 days. Despite the fact that it's complete nonsense what he's saying and no one agrees with him, the fact that he went public with such a foolish announcement shows that this is seconds away from being an outright war. Russia came before they sent all of the soldiers, as we said in previous shiurim, before they sent the soldiers, the tanks, the jeeps, the planes, the anything. They sent a ship full of 200 atomic bombs. Before the soldiers, before anything, arrived at Syria. Now they sent a submarine, the biggest submarine in the world, which we don't really know how many atomic bombs it has, but it probably has more than the first one. You don't need an atomic bomb for Syria, by the way, just in case anyone's wondering. You don't need even one. 5 can destroy pretty much the entire area of Middle East. You use 10 to destroy the whole world already. 200, you're going for end of the world. You're not going for, let me scare people. There's a problem here, guys. And as that wasn't enough, and the tanks that he brought, and the jeeps, and the planes, and the weapons, and the soldiers, and all of that, he asked the biggest country in the world, as far as people, China, to come help him. 2 billion people, biggest army in the world, came to help Russia, as if they need help for the supposable cause of fighting Daesh, or fighting ISIS. ISIS is a bunch of gangsters. It's not a country. What do you need atomic bombs for them? And even if you need the atomic, what do you need the help of China? And if that wasn't enough, he asked North Korea, the number 1 terrorist after Iran, to come help also. So they came also to come help. And more countries are joining to what? To fight ISIS? You really believe this nonsense story that they're fighting ISIS? But that's what they're all there for? Milchemet Gog Magog already began. It began on September 11, 2015, according to the boy that had the near-death experience. And according to the newspapers, the fact that it's not an acceptable term or an acceptable understanding in the United States is baffling, but nonetheless, it's what's happening here. But also, this is not what's our only concern. Our concern is the fact that the rest of the world is united on one thing only. Everyone is united on one thing. America is united on one thing with the Arabs. A large part of them. They all hate Israel. Despite the fact that you have many Jews and the biggest Jewish population living in America, other than Israel, 40% of Americans are anti-Semitic. The administration today is not exactly pro-Israel. Is an interesting term that the president uses, that he describes ISIS as. The whole world uses the term ISIS. Barack Obama uses ISIL, I-S-I-L. And if you're interested to look up the term, he's defining multiple countries in the Middle East, just like everyone else describes ISIS. But the reason why it's ISIL is because Israel is included in that definition. Most people don't know this. They just think he's a moron and makes a mistake. Problem is, he's not a moron, and he's not making a mistake. People that are Americans in the United States are slowly but surely realizing that the world around them is changing. America is changing. There's a dentist in New York that would volunteer, American dentist, American Jewish dentist, Orthodox Jew, that would volunteer to help people for free with his work in Israel. He would go once a year and help. Also, he would help people in the U.S. Army for free. He says, my golden years, I don't need as much money as I used to, I help people for free. They took away his visa. He's not allowed to travel anymore. Why? Because he has relatives that live in Israel. Maybe he's not loyal to America. He's an American citizen. This is not one story. This is not 2. This is not 5. This is not 10. This is happening all over. Just that we are here living in Boca Raton, comfortable with our life. We're working our jobs. We're managing our life. We're buying groceries. We're doing our thing. We're not paying attention to the world around us all the time. And it's not that it's a bad thing. It's reality. I'm telling you, people that are probably his next door neighbors of the people that are suffering probably don't know some of this stuff. Now, this does not necessarily mean that we should all go into a panic and run and do protests, but we should start waking up that HaShem is sending us all these text messages. Sending us these little messages. The one that's in control of the heaven and the earth and everything in between, everything above and below, he's sending us messages. He's not doing this stuff just to annoy us. He's not doing this stuff just so we can get scared for a lecture and then 2 hours after the lecture we forgot about it. He's not doing it to us so we could all go become psychotic and start thinking that everybody's out there to kill us. Or we could start websites against the administration. He's not doing this for that. He's doing this for us to tell, hey, by the way, buddy, I'm in control of all of it. I could stop it. I could continue it. I can make it worse. I can make it better. Why? Because it's time for you to answer the text. How do you answer the text to Hashem? Connect to me. Start doing things that fulfill your purpose. Stop worrying so much about this world so much. Stop thinking that you're in control of your own world. That's what we talked about at the beginning of Shiur. When someone does a fast, in essence, they're almost obligating their body to connect with Hashem because there's less material. That's what Hashem is sending us all of these messages. Nonetheless, the time of the end of days that Yaakov Avinu is talking about here in this parasha is the time that we're speaking about today. Is today. It does not necessarily mean that it's going to end tomorrow or next week or even next year. It could happen tomorrow, it could happen now, it could happen in 20 years from now. But what we do need to know is that it's happening and that we are running out of time because we don't have 100 years. We don't have 200 years. We don't have that much time. According to Chazal, the Mashiach is going to come before Shabbat. What does it mean before Shabbat? Obviously Hashem is not referring that only on Friday or only on Sunday until Friday can the Mashiach come. So Chazal explains to us that it's not what he's talking about. He's talking about that in God's days. In God's days, every 1,000, even though he's not obligated to time or not bound to time, in God's days, every 1,000 years that we have is considered one day for God. That's what it's considered. So right now in the year 5776 that we're in, it is considered Friday, 6:15 p.m. So some people think that, oh no, we have until the year 6000. According to Chazal, it said that the world ends at 6000. That's not true. The natural world ends, but the Mashiach comes before Shabbat. 6000, the year 6000 is already midnight Friday. Any of you were ever around for a Friday that started at midnight? No, right? Friday, Shabbat doesn't start on midnight. Shabbat starts on the average somewhere around 6 o'clock. Maybe 7. The latest Shabbat during the year is maybe around 8 o'clock. Some are as early as 4. Some are as late as 8. But average is somewhere around 6. Every hour is 41 years, according to the calculations I did. So if we're around 6:15 right now at the year 5776, at best, we have 20 years. At best. In reality, I don't think we have that much. Not to scare people, not to get people to leave their jobs and go become avrechim and go broke, but because we have to just start paying attention to what's going on around us, and it's time for us to wake up a little bit. Because the reality of it is that everything that's happening right now adds up for it to happen now. World War III being underway, that's what the Gog Magog is. everyone hating Jews has always been around, but every generation or so there's a break for like 10, 20 years. Then it comes back. And then there's this Masechet Sotah. I told you one time that I'm going to read this to you guys, and I think it's a good time to talk about it. Of what the Gemara says, this is one of the places that talks about what's going to happen at the end of days. And you guys tell me what you think of it, because maybe I'm misunderstanding it. So this is what Chazal is saying, that these things are going to happen at the end of days. Okay? In the period which will precede the coming of Mashiach, meaning it will happen before the Mashiach, chutzpah yizgeh, insolence, meaning people are going to be very rude. Insolence will increase. Is a generation today very polite?
No.
V'yoker ya'amir, and costs will soar. Inflation. Is everything cheap? You go to the milk, is it 99 cents like it was a few years ago?
No.
Oh, it's very expensive. $5, $6, right? Okay. Okay, so far, we're both on the same page, Baruch Hashem. Agefen titen priya v'ayayin b'yoker. The vine will yield its fruit, yet wine will be dear. Wine will become very, very expensive. But also Chazal is explaining to us that people will engage in drinking parties. And so much wine is going to be used at these specific drinking parties. And alcohol is going to be used at these drinking parties. You guys ever heard of such a thing?
What's a drinking party? How's it different than anything in history?
Because having a drinking party was a very rare event in the old days. People didn't have that kind of money to have drinking parties. Today it's an everyday event in clubs.
But they didn't do celebrations?
Celebrations, yes, but again, based on how we were and how we are, it's two completely different worlds.
Yeah.
Today it's not a celebration. Today we just go to the club because that's what people do every day. Let's continue.
Alright.
And the wine will be extra expensive, more expensive than what it should be. Okay, in the store, wine is $7. In the club, your same bottle that you bought for $7
Double.
is $550. Okay, the vodka bottle you bought at the alcohol store, $12.99. In $12.99. In the club, if you go to a very, very fancy club, it could be $1,299. Okay, said them. Okay, said them.
It's so convincing, but
Okay, this one, we're 1 for 4. We're 3 for 4. Umalchut ta'afech liminot ve'en tochachat. And the government will turn to hearsay, to heresy. And there will be no rebuke. This is two things.
Heresy meaning as well.
The world's dominant powers
I'll give you that for sure.
will spread non-belief. Atheist. Atheist. Governments in general are atheists, right? In Israel and here. And pretty much most everywhere else. But also it says here, there shall be no rebuke. The rabbis of the day, the people that are supposed to tell people the truth, for the most part, you're not going to find many people that are going to tell people the truth. It's a mitzvah from the Torah. To rebuke people, to tell them the truth of the Torah.
they're not doing it.
99.9% of the people that are supposed to do it are not doing it today.
Because they're getting nice sponsors.
Whatever, everybody has their own reason, but nonetheless, the ocheach tochech et amitecha is a very rare thing to find. And even the ones that are doing it, you know how much hard time they give them? You're not allowed in my synagogue, you're not allowed in this synagogue, you're not allowed in this synagogue. Websites against them. All types of things. You have a Hanukkah party, gets $1 million donation. You have a guy that's spreading words of Torah that are true and mochiach anashim and tells people to rebuke, barely gets $100 a day for his CDs. So, exactly over here.
Okay. Good, so far good.
Bet vad yeliznut. An erstwhile meeting place of sages will be used for harlotry.
What is that? Oh, it doesn't make sense.
Znut.
Doesn't
Prostitution.
Yeah, but what does it mean in our
People
days?
that in essence are supposed to be people of Torah are going to strip clubs.
Okay.
Have you ever heard of anyone that dresses like a rabbi at a strip club? I don't know. I've heard a few of those stories.
That's,
And
that's
in my
probably,
past life,
that's probably
I
been
saw
going
some
on-
of those stories.
That's probably been going on for years, though.
More common today. Today they don't feel bad about it, unfortunately. They come with the uniform today. In the old days, at least, they would take off the kippah, the hat.
But the Torah,
And the
says,
clothing.
the Torah says that if you must do something like that, I don't quote me on this, you go somewhere far away. That doesn't make sense, actually.
Yeah, but not with your Jewish identity.
But how are you
Chilul
supposed?
Hashem.
But how are you supposed to even go somewhere where nobody knows you
Still a sin.
to commit sin?
It's still a sin.
So why
but
would
at least
they-
it's not the biggest sin. The biggest sin is Chilul Hashem.
But is there something like that?
Sure, yeah.
There is
yeah.
a place that.
Yeah, there's degrees of sin.
Really?
There's degrees of sin. Not every sin is the highest level. So, for example, murder is a big sin. It's the 6th commandment. Out of the 10 commandments, it's number 6. Do not murder. It's a big sin. Not believing in Hashem is number 1. I am Hashem she'otzi otcha miMitzrayim. I'm the guy that took you out of Egypt. That's number 1. Number 4 is Shabbat, which means that not believing in Hashem is the worst thing. Not keeping Shabbat is right under it. It's number 4. Murder is number 6, which means that murder is less than Shabbat. Making a Chilul Shabbat is much, much worse than murdering somebody. Because for Chilul Shabbat, זה אומר, מות יומת ונחייתה הנפש מהמאה. It means death, it's cutting the life short here. It means also no share of the world to come. And also the person is not considered Jewish. Nichyata nefesh me'ameh means he's cut off from the nation. He's no longer considered Jewish. He cannot be counted in a minyan. There's a machloket of whether you could even say Kaddish on him. His Kaddish does not count. If he touches wine that's mevushal, the wine is no good. He cannot bring a korban in Bet HaMikdash. The Goyim can bring a korban to the Bet HaMikdash. The Goyim can bring a korban to Bet HaMikdash. Mechalel Shabbat cannot bring a korban to Bet HaMikdash. So you see that a Mechalel Shabbat is worse than a Goy. A righteous Goy is much higher than a Mechalel Shabbat. So don't think that this whole is when the Shulchan Aruch says someone's a Mechalel Shabbat, Nichshav Goy lechol davar, is considered a Goy in every way. It's not an insult on the Goyim. It's the opposite. It's saying that the Goyim are better than him. Mechalel Shabbat is worse. A righteous Goy is Job. Job, in the Torah, has a whole book in the Tanakh about Job. He's not Jewish. So there's some Goyim that are very, very righteous. Mechalel Shabbat is a big problem. So people don't understand this. They drive to shul not realizing that this is a serious problem. Going back to this, V'agalid yechra v'agavlan yashom. And the Galilee will be destroyed, and the Gavlan desolated. They're using a source of Psalm 83. This is a land that borders Eretz Yisrael to the south. Moving on, I'll keep reading it. I'll read the whole thing, but we'll go on to some of the things that are more interesting in my opinion. But you guys, if you like something. ואנשי הגבול יסובבו מעיר לעיר. And the people who dwell on the borders will wander about from town to town. Does any of this sound familiar to you? Like terrorists, Syrians, ISIS, people that call themselves Palestinians, even though there was never such a country called Palestine, that are now walking around with knives telling their children to stab whoever they can see from town to town.
Brainwashed them.
V'lo yechonenu, but they will not be succored. Can't stop it. V'chachmot sofrim tesrach, and the wisdom of scribes will decay. Machloket. You know how many machlokets there are between the rabbanim in Israel, all over the world? Big fighting between the rabbis, unfortunately. Yeshiva to yeshiva, even there's one yeshiva, there's a machloket of who should be the head rabbi. So the students of one rabbi are fist fighting the students of the other rabbi. This is talmidim chachamim. If we're just talking about Am Haaretz, we're talking about regular Jews don't know Torah, they're fighting, they hate religion. Okay, that's expected almost. talking about talmidim chachamim. People learn Torah, fist fighting, taking the things, smashing on each other's heads, blood. B'chilul Hashem. V'yirei chet yimasu. And those who dread sin will be despised. The people that are careful about the mitzvot, the people that are telling people, you shouldn't sin, you shouldn't be a mechal Shabbat, you shouldn't drive on Shabbat, you shouldn't, make all these sins. They want to give a 5-minute lecture on Sudah Shlishit in the Knesset. No, we don't want that kind of stuff. We only want to say nice things in the Knesset. They're not going to let them talk. That sounds familiar to me. וחכמות סופרים תסרח, okay, we said this already. והאמת תהיה נעדרת, and the truth will be absent. There's going to be many, many lectures, and many, many speakers about business, about science, about marriage, about this, about that, but very, very rarely will you ever find truth. You have to go to a exclusive shiur with 5 people in somebody's house that nobody heard of to hear some of the truth. Ne'alim pnei zkenim yelbinu. Youths will blanch the faces of elders. In the old days, the old man comes on a bus. All of the young guys get out of the bus, get off their chairs. Please, kvodo. Doesn't have to be old chacham. Please sit. Today, old man is sitting. The young men tell him, "Come on, old man, get up off the chair." Zkenim ya'amdu b'nei knanim. The elders will stand in the presence of minors. Exactly what we just said.
All these are chachot? How many are there?
Oh, there's many more than just this Gemara.
Why?
Ben menavelav. The son derides his father. Kids speaking back to their fathers. Abba, I hate you. Abba, you're this, and that. Why? Why is Abba this? Because he didn't buy him a toy. I knew somebody used to beat up his parents.
No, because they spoil him too much.
But kama v'ima chalab v'chamuta. The daughters rises against her mother-in-law and her mother, and a daughter-in-law against her mother-in-law. How many stories have we heard that the daughter-in-laws cannot get along with the mother-in-laws? A lot of homes are destroyed because of the connection of the in-laws. Either the son can't get along with his wife's parents, or the daughter-in-law can't get along with her husband's parents. Many stories.
They get involved with their business.
Oivei ish, we're almost done. Oivei ish anshe beto. A man's enemies are the people of his household. Somebody trying to do tshuva, they learn a few things. Rabbi said a few good things. But Torah, I should learn 5 minutes a day, 10 minutes a day. I want to do tshuva. Maybe I wear a kippah on Shabbat. Maybe I'll keep Shabbat even. People of his own house. He's still living at home. He's 17 years old kid. People of his own house. No. I'd rather you do drugs. Don't keep Shabbat.
Oh, what?
His enemies are in his house. His biggest enemies are in his own house. This also means that our own enemies, Am Yisrael's own enemies, are also going to be Jews. Pnei ador pnei kelev. The face of the generation is like the face of a dog. This means 2 things. One, because the dogs are audacious, it's a very it's a animal that doesn't have a manners, if you will. It doesn't hide itself. It's a very audacious. I guess very audacious. Animal. People are going to act like dogs. But also scientifically, they did research already many years ago. This is at least 30, 40 years ago. They started noticing that the people that are dog owners look like their dogs. I have actually a picture on my phone. It will take too long for me to find it, but I'll show you guys a picture that literally the faces that you see, profiles of people next to their dogs. They look exactly like their dogs.
They stare at their
A
own.
son is not abashed, is not embarrassed in front of his father. You see, in the old days, if a son had a girlfriend, he wouldn't tell his father until she became a wife, until he wants to marry her. Today, Abba, what do you think about? No, you should get somebody else. If a kid was doing something bad, he'd go do it behind the parents' back. Today, he does it with the father. ועל מה יש לנו להישען? על אבינו שבשמיים. So after all these disasters, with the exception of one, Tomer is not 100% convinced. I think the rest of him he's convinced. Right, Tomer?
The first three, no. But after that, yeah.
he does.
So most of them, 97% of what we said, everything is happening.
Yeah, I mean...
Why? My first three. First is chutzpah.
Chutzpah, the first one is good.
Yeah.
And 2, 3, and 4 can...
Chutzpah, gift. Okay.
I can't make the
Most of them
connection.
in general
Yeah,
are pretty
but,
obvious.
yeah.
So after all of this, in essence, if you actually read this, it's almost like reading a newspaper. You read the regular newspaper today, you see the same thing. You see stories, countless stories of things, celebrities going against their parents, people getting fame for doing strange things. I read this story. A father of 7, not Jewish, Baruch HaShem, but nonetheless a person that's part of the world. A father of 7 decides at I think he's maybe in his late 40s, to decide he no longer wants to be a father to his kids. He no longer wants to be a husband to his wife. He no longer wants to be himself. He wants to be
A woman.
a 7-year-old girl. And that's what he decided to do. He left everything, and he now has these adopted parents, old people that adopted him, and he dresses like a 7-year-old girl. And all day he plays with toys, like as if he's a 7-year-old girl. HaShem Yirachem. Aside from being, I know part of it's funny, and if you see the guy, he's 6'5", 350 pounds. He's huge. So it's like mamash azui. It's like the most strangest thing in the world. But that's what's happening to our world today.
Wow. So his kids come and babysit him?
But that's what's happening to our That's what's happening to our world today. So the chutzpah of the world, the lack of shame in the world is already enough. Worst part about it is the fact that I found out about it. Why? Me. Because I never look for this type of stuff. I look for other things. This is publicized all over the news. You couldn't miss it. If you looked at the news, you couldn't miss it. They highlighted this person. They made a whole show about him. They gave him a special on primetime TV. I don't watch TV. I was on the internet. But the point is, they gave him a special. They interviewed this guy.
And he becomes famous.
And he is famous now.
She.
7-year-old girl is
7-year-old
famous. So you see that there's something seriously wrong. Seriously wrong with our society. The world as we see it is changing
Look, Mom,
and
I
not
have a little
improving.
sister.
So after Yaakov gives the blessings, he gives the details of the end of days that he's allowed, but he also gives rebuke to his kids. We're almost finished. He gives rebuke to his first few kids. He gives to Reuven, he rebukes him. To Levi and Shimon, he rebukes them also. So now the question is, why does Yaakov decide that as a last will and testament, as a last message to his kids, he's going to ochiach otam, he's going to rebuke them. Shouldn't he say, listen, I love you, my son, may Hashem bless you, may he give you this, may he give you that. Blessings, what is he rebuking them for? No.
So that generation could follow their guide?
They can do the tshuva.
Chazak u'baruch. No, Maod, Tomer.
Who's doing what? Yaakov is rebuking them?
Yeah.
He knows they're going to fall into slavery.
Said that, but he's rebuking them now about things they already did.
So they can fix it.
But he's dying. Well, okay, he couldn't tell him a day before, he couldn't tell him a week before, he couldn't tell him 20 years ago. Now, at the last, before he dies, he finally remembers to rebuke them?
No, because this
No,
will
they're
be
rebuking
the last things. That's
No, he's rebuking them. It's not. No, it's 100% rebuke.
The herds.
It's not a compliment
the
what he
most.
tells Reuven. It's not a compliment what he tells Levi and Shimon. It's not a compliment. He's rebuking them.
they will-
מוכיח אותם, שם אותם בפנים. מה קורה?
So that way they won't forget, especially his last breath.
This is
What
what
he
he
this
told
is what
them.
this is what he
They will
told.
remember it
that they won't
forever and
forget.
ever and ever.
Chazak u'baruch. So Because Yaakov knew that telling the truth is more important than anything else. More important than love. More important than anything else in the world is the truth. The signature of HaShem is truth. Emet. HaShem cannot say, listen, Moshe Rabbeinu did everything that, I told him to do. He's in Gan Eden. Tzvika doesn't keep anything, but he's a very funny guy. He belongs in the same place. It can't be. It cannot be. I made rules. Hashem says I made rules 974 generations before I created the world. I wrote the Torah. The Torah was created before the world. When Hashem wrote the Torah, He didn't only give limitations and obligations to mankind. He gave limitations and obligations to Himself. Because He knew that He is only good. And if He saw Tzvika, that's a Mechalel Shabbat, but it's one of His kids, if he doesn't have rules, he's going to say, you know what, he's still my kid, I'm going to give him a pass. But then Moshe is going to come and say, how could it be that Tzvika didn't keep anything, and he's in the same place as me? So Hashem says, I have to give myself rules. Because of the love, because I love them, I have to give myself rules. But that's what people need to understand. The truth is more important than anything else. The truth is above everything else. And Yaakov, he's telling his sons the truth. The most important thing that they need to know, the most important message they need to know, is what he's going to tell them at the end of his life. To Yehuda, he's telling them the Mashiach is going to come from you. Mashiach is going to come from Shevet Yehuda. That's a very, very important message. He's also telling him other things. He's telling him that he's blessed and so on. But he's telling each person the most important message they need to know. But not only them, but just like Nisan said, everyone for the rest of the generations need to know. This is the most important message. Why? Because this is the truth. So people are saying, okay, but why? You couldn't pick a different time? No, because the most important time in a person's life is before he dies. Why? Because that's the message you're going to remember. Mm-hmm. The messages that you remember is the times that is the end. In Proverbs, in Mishlei 3:11, the smartest man of all time, Shlomo HaMelech, says to us, Musar Hashem b'ni al timas. My son, do not despise the admonishment of Hashem. You should love Musar. You should love rebuking. Why? Because it's somebody telling you the truth. It's Musar Hashem. It's not somebody telling you, hey, by the way, you didn't pick up the box the right way. You're going to get docked today for work. It's not that. Musar Hashem is the truth of Torah, the truth of how to serve Hashem, the truth of how to have good midot. That's the most important thing, and that's what Yaakov is telling his sons. He also talks about the blessing of, he gives Zvulun a blessing before he gives Issachar. Now we know that Issachar is older. How is it that Zvulun is getting the blessing first? Zvulun and Issachar had a very, very special arrangement. Zvulun, his blessing, it says, Zvulun shall settle by seashores, because Zvulun was in import-export business. He's very, very wealthy. It says, he shall be at the ship's harbor, and his last border will reach Zidon, Sidon. So be very, very successful. Issachar is a strong-boned donkey. He rests between the boundaries, which means that he is in yeshivot. He saw tranquility, that it was good, and that the land was that it was pleasant. Yet he bent his shoulders to bear, and he became an indentured laborer. Issachar saw the world, but he still chose to be in yeshiva. He still chose to learn Torah all day. And he had a special arrangement with Zvulun. Zvulun said, I'll make the money for both of us. You learn the Torah for both of us. But it's not like today where people say, listen, I'm going to give this person $500 a month, and for every mitzvah he gets, I'm getting. That's not Issachar and Zvulun arrangement. $500 a month is not going to be enough for this person to live. People need more than $500 a month to live. Yeah, of course you get a mitzvah. Of course it's tzedakah, 100%. But it's not Issachar and Zvulun. People call everything Issachar and Zvulun. When they give tzedakah, they give $5 to somebody who learns Torah, they think they're Issachar and Zvulun. People have to wake up. Okay, tzedakah is good, Baruch HaShem, good for you. But Issachar and Zvulun is, Zvulun says, I'll give you everything you need. You won't want for anything. Everything you need, I'll pay for it. Issachar says, I'm going to study for us 100%. All of my time is going to be partnership. But in those days, Issachar had special powers. Mamash, he got to a point where I don't think there is no human in the world that can do it now, but maybe some people can get close. But he got to a point where he didn't sleep at all, ever. He would study 24 hours a day. To make sure that he gets all of the schuyot he deserves, because he learned Torah, but Zvulun also gets all the schuyot. So it's enough, it's 24 hours for both of them. There's no time wasted. Today, in today's age, a big talmidim chachamim, they don't sleep much, but nonetheless they do sleep. You have some of the biggest, Rabbi Yosef is known to sleep maybe only 2 hours a day, 2.5 hours a day. Kanievsky, Yashiv, all of these big tzaddikim that you hear about, they don't sleep very much. 2 hours a day is normal to hear of those people, and some of them don't even sleep consecutive sleep. Like for example, David HaMelech wouldn't sleep more than 15 minutes in consecutive sleep. He would do 15 minutes several times a day. It would be 15 minutes. It would be called the sleep of a horse, because a horse doesn't sleep for a long period of time. So tzaddikim of today's generation can't do exactly what Issachar and Zvulun did. They can't do what Issachar did and don't sleep at all. But again, when you're really understanding the truth of HaShem, you realize that every second you live is an opportunity to collect another $1 million. Just like my cousin said, Rabbi Chaim Kachlon said, in the shiur he sent out to you guys last week, but it's maybe like a 5-10 minute shiur. Really interesting. He said people don't understand how much time they waste in their day. They don't realize how much time they talk between each other. They talk to each other, talk about baseball, they talk about football, they talk about different things that are nonsense. They don't realize that every word that comes out of their mouth could be a potential to make $1 million. Every word, divrei Torah, is $1 million. So it's like somebody gives you 2 buttons. One button, you print money. You print $1 million bills. The other button just prints paper. And you just sit there when you're talking about sports, and you're talking about business, you're talking about this girl or that girl, what you did this weekend or this vacation you're setting up, and all this nonsense that people spend their whole life doing. Of course, some nonsense is required for people to live, but not your whole day. So he's saying over here in the shiur, it's something you have to take into consideration. You are crazy. Instead of pressing the button to make $1 million every second, you're pressing the button that just makes paper over and over again. And you're just making more paper, but no money. You're crazy. And that's exactly what the Talmidim Chachamim understand. When I told you that Rabbi Chaim says, I can't believe I'm not studying enough, he's not joking. Guy studies 16, 17 hours a day. He's not joking, it's not enough. If you tell any of the Rabbi Ovadia, even Zecher Tzadik Levacha, maybe you should take a break, he wouldn't understand what you mean, take a break. On his hospital bed, days before he died, he was still studying Torah. There's a joke about him, says, Rabbi, I heard that you know the whole Torah Baal Peh, you know the whole Torah by heart. He goes, no, come on, don't be ridiculous. And he says, I know half. He goes, oh, you know half? Oh, that's still respectable. Which half? He goes, which one do you want? So, the tzaddikim, the people who know HaShem, they know that every second counts. Every second counts. Use it to say divrei Torah. Use it to put a video on your phone, on your TV, open a book. Something. Tehillim. Something. Do something. Because, again, every second is $1 million. We don't know it because we don't see the $1 million going into a bank. We think that the physical bank is the only thing that counts. But in reality, when our neshama comes out, which we all have gotten to the point where we realize our neshama is the real you, neshama comes out, it can't take the money that you have here. The only money you have is the mitzvot you have. If we live our life with that in mind, we could benefit in a very, very big way. So, that still does not answer the question that I asked of why is Zvulun mentioned before Issachar?
Issachar don't need that blessing
No.
because he's studied so much.
Because it says, Chazal says, the one who helps another person do a mitzvah is bigger than the one that made the mitzvah.
Okay.
The person that's financing the other person that's learning Torah, that's doing Kiruv, that's helping people do Teshuva, that's dedicating his life to Torah, the person that's donating to that cause is not only a partner, but it could be even considered higher than the one that's doing the mitzvah.
Okay.
If you tell somebody, keep Shabbat, and that person keeps Shabbat, it's like, and you also keep Shabbat, of course, so you kept Shabbat, you have one. His Shabbat is considered, that he kept, is considered more than your own Shabbat. It's like you kept 1.5 Shabbat more. So now you, instead of keeping 1 Shabbat, you kept 2.5 Shabbats. So the question is, why do you need 2.5 Shabbats? You have 1 Shabbat, it's enough. HaShem didn't say keep 2 Shabbats. He said keep 1 Shabbat. But you have 1 Shabbat. You're not obligated to keep 2 Shabbats every week. You're obligated to keep 1 Shabbat. Why do you need 2.5 Shabbats? Why do you need 10 Shabbats? Why do you need 500 Shabbats? Because we didn't keep Shabbat our whole life. We didn't keep Shabbat our whole life. We're going to live 70, 80, 120 years. We're going to show up to Hashem. Listen, I did Teshuva at the age of 30. I kept Shabbat from that point on. Okay, but still there's missing. You're still missing all the years that you didn't keep Shabbat. From the age of, let's say, 20, because your averot before the age of 20 don't count as much. They're not at the high level. So after age 20 until age 30, there's 10 years of Shabbat that you didn't keep. That's 52 Shabbatot a year. It's 520 Shabbats that are missing. So you have a deficit in your account. You made one person keep Shabbat. A Baal Tshuva keep Shabbat. Every Shabbat he keeps is another Shabbat in your account. And it could be even 1.5. So now all those missing Shabbat, the 520 that you missed out, you don't show up with a deficit, you show up with a plus. Why? Because that Shabbat, that person is keeping Shabbat. And on top of it, his wife's going to keep Shabbat. And his kids are going to keep Shabbat. And you start all of it. So the most valuable, the best investment to do is to help people keep Shabbat, to help people keep mitzvot, because it's actually even considered higher. Of course, you have to do it yourself. You can't be a kofel. You can't be one of those people that tells other people to do things, and you don't do it yourself. The Gemara says, someone that tells people to do things and he doesn't do it himself, it's better that he choked on the umbilical cords of his mother. And never came out to the world. So they don't speak very highly of hypocrites. They don't speak very highly of hypocrites. So, lastly, to finalize things, before this parasha is over, after Yaakov dies, it also talks about Yosef's death. And Yosef makes his brothers swear he died earlier than them. He died at the age of 110. And some say he died earlier than his brothers because he never truly forgave them. Others say that he died earlier because he allowed his father to be called his slave, his servant, a couple of times without responding, without saying no and correcting them, because that's before they knew he was the viceroy. But nonetheless, he dies before them, but at that point he tells them that Pakod yifkod etchem ve'eleh etchem min haaretz. No, sorry. Vayomer Yosef elechav, anochi met ve'elohim pakod yifkod etchem ve'eleh etchem min haaretz azot el haaretz asher nishba leAvraham, leYitzchak uLeYaakov. Joseph said to his brothers, I am about to die, but God will surely remember you and bring you up out of this land to the land that he swore to Abraham, to Isaac, and to Jacob. So he's telling them, just remember, Hashem is going to take you out of this land, this Egypt. He's going to take you out of it. Don't get too comfortable. Don't spend too much money on real estate. Don't. Some say even you're not allowed to build a house outside of Israel. Some say it's not obviously not. It's not a halacha, but some say you shouldn't build a house outside of Israel because you shouldn't get used to Mitzrayim. You shouldn't get used to the exile. Mm-hmm. So that's what he's telling them. He's saying Hashem is going to take you out. It's not a sin, by the way, if anybody built a house. It's just what Chazal says. You should always think about coming back home. No, I don't want anyone to misunderstand what I'm saying. That they think, oh my God, I'm building a house, maybe I should destroy it. No, it's just people need to understand is in essence the commitment to Hashem, the commitment to Israel, the belief, the conscious belief, not subconscious belief, the conscious belief that the Mashiach is going to come. We're all going to go back to Israel. That's the lifestyle that we need to get to, Bezrat Hashem. So he's telling his brothers, don't worry, Hashem is going to take you out of here, just like he swore to our forefathers, to Avraham, Yitzhak, and to our father Yaakov. So don't get too comfortable here. Why is he mentioning this? Because at the end of last week's parasha, we actually said it also, Baruch Hashem, it said that they did get comfortable. It said that they did start buying real estate outside of Goshen. And unfortunately, that is one of the reasons, not the only reasons, because this was already a prophecy to Avraham. That was one of the reasons why the whole slavery started. Because when we got out of Goshen, was a city that was just for the Jews. As soon as the tribes got too comfortable, they started buying real estate outside of Goshen. So what happened after they got out of Goshen? They started mingling with the Goyim. They started mingling with the non-Jews. And when your kids are mingling with the non-Jews, little by little, they take on their traits. Little by little, public school is going to affect you. In the beginning, you can come from yeshiva. You come from yeshiva, religious family, everything is great. Baruch Hashem, kid goes to public school, within 1 year he's completely destroyed. So he's saying, you already bought some real estate outside of Goshen, you're already intermingling with the Goyim. You're not supposed to do that. I got you specifically in the city of Goshen for you to be religious. I got you the Jewish community for you to stay in the Jewish community. Not so you can go to the movies with the Goyim. Not so you could do so much. You have to stay there. So if you didn't realize it, then I'm reminding you now before I die, because that's the message you're going to remember. Just like the message you remembered from Abba, from Yaakov, that you remembered when he rebuked you, or he blessed you, whatever he told you before he died. Everybody remembers what he said, right? So you're also going to remember what I said, because I'm about to die. Don't get too comfortable here. Don't get too comfortable. Bezrat Hashem, all of the Torah that we learn gets us closer to Hashem, gets us closer to a subconscious mind and a conscious mindset that Mashiach is not only coming, but he's here, that our obligation in the world is to do mitzvot, to sanctify the name of Hashem, to truly get to a point where our account balance in the bank of here becomes irrelevant to us, because our account balance in the real bank of Shamayim is doing so well, nothing else really matters. Baruch Adonai Leolam. Amen.